therapy, some bit of sauna, and then that's just on the off days. But then I spend a fair bit of time at the club, in the hands of the physios and the trainers, making sure I get my body flushed out a fair bit. So they take a fair bit of credit for being able to keep my game streak going.
What about the coach? I enjoyed reading this week. We know he's a little bit quirky, Fly, and a couple of the tactics he's been using to try and bring the focus back onto you as a group and what you're doing as a team. Last week against the Hawks, you had a couple of big milestones against you, and I enjoyed reading that you celebrated Darcy Cameron's 40th game without giving too much away. There's obviously enough happening external to the game today, but has there been any little focus this week that you can let us in on?
The Darcy Cameron one, that was so bloody good. Like, we got people to do, how people send in video messages saying well done.
Yeah.
We had a few people do that, and everyone was just losing it in the change room.
Well, it worked, didn't it?
Yeah, no, it's good.
He might need to again today.
Yeah. No, it was so good. He did play well, and we spoke about this week how he had an opportunity to kick I think the first goal of the game for his 40th, but he missed it. So we had a few laughs about that. But as far as this week goes, we might have to wait for the team meeting. I'm sure Fly's got something up his sleeve to give us a little laugh. He gave us one yesterday as well, which is quite funny.
It's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just on Darcy Cameron, what a great story he's been. And I mentioned, he comes up today against the best ruckman in the competition, so he's going to have another great challenge today. But you must be feeling more and more confident as a midfield group roving to his feet, albeit the fact that, the opportunity came with the injury to Big Brodie.
Yeah, and 100%. I think, we heavily relied on Brodie for so long now. It's given Darcy a massive opportunity, and I think he's taken that with two hands. He hasn't put a foot backwards since he's been able to play full-time ruck. We've seen him excel all over the ground. His follow-up work, he's getting forward, kicking goals, and he's also being able to fill some holes down back for us at times. But, yeah, it's great to see him playing some great football. We've got Coxie coming in to chop him out as well. So giving those two blokes a crack in the guts is going to be a great challenge today against Warne.
Jack, it's Matt Clinch here. As we had the bye rounds, we started to do our All-Australian, and it'll come as no surprise to you that Brett Delidio had you as a part of our team, our All-Australian team. A Copeland Trophy winner last year. What do you try and judge your season on? As Paulie mentioned, you haven't missed a beat since you arrived at Collingwood. Each year it felt like you got better and better and averaging over sort of 500 metres gained. So what are the metrics you try and improve your season week to week?
I think for individually, I just focus on bringing my strength to the table, which is not only the contested stuff inside, but being able to use my quick feet and drive and run and carry to get to stoppage, and then just run the length of the ground, be able to break the game open. I think it helps with our brand of football. We like to play forward footy, so it probably does allow me to go a bit harder forward these days. But yeah, I don't really have too many things to hold my game on. It's more of a team way, but if I happen to get on the end of a few things, then that's great. But focus on the team.
And 12 months is a long time in footy. Playing this game in Sydney last year was Nathan Buckley's last game, and
yes.
You look at the Collingwood lineup, there's sort of 7 players featuring today that weren't there last year, but yet it feels like the movement has been more significant than that. If you were to put your finger on one or two things other than the coach, what would you say has been Collingwood's main improvement?
I think just our desire to play as a team. We've come together a lot over the pre-season, over the start of the year. We feel like we're playing a lot more for each other, and the excitement's there as well. It might not have been there much last year. We were losing a few close games early, and then maybe that dropped off a little bit. But I think you can see belief in everyone's eyes, the way that we attack the footy, the way we try to run for each other and reward each other's efforts. With the run and carry, and with everybody having individual goal kickers for a lot of the games. I think it's just great reward for effort, what we've been able to train over the pre-season and implement the first half of the year.
Collingwood midfielder Jack Crisp with us on Grandstand AFL. Jack, your time's very much appreciated. We're just over an hour away from the bounce. Very few people would have had this experience, let alone the experience 188 times as you've had in your career. Can you take us through, I guess, the timeline of the next hour? What does it look like before a big game? How do you spend the moments?
Well, after this, I'll go out for a quick run around and a kick. We'll have a quick divisional catch-up with our midfield, straight to the team meeting, and then I'll stay inside. I get massage inside. I think 3/4 of the team will come out for a kick. Then I just wait inside, do a bit of balls off the net, and then we start our warm-up.
Do you get nervous?
Not as much as I used to. Maybe a bit more for a big game like this, but I try not to think about that too much.
And who controls the music downstairs? Is it a loud change room?
Yeah, it is very loud. We've actually started singing a little bit in the start of the warm-up the last couple of weeks. I think it's a Rihanna song that comes on the moment, but when she sings one bit, all the boys start going, yeah. It's quite funny, yeah.
Who usually runs the music?
Brad Maynard likes to put himself in charge, but he generally gets a good feel of the group.
We'll let you go, Jack. Good luck today. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Jack Crisp from the Collingwood Football Club. A real treat to catch up with a player involved in today's game just an hour or so ago, and we're less than 20 minutes away from a start here at the MCG. The Big Freeze formalities are just about wrapping up. We've got the 10 sliders going down into the icy plunge into the water, which is set up underneath the stage at the city end of the ground, and the banner is being lifted towards the Melbourne members. 2 teams, 1 fight, fight M&D. It takes people is what's written on the Melbourne banner. Now, elsewhere in some other sport, the Super Netball, the Melbourne Vixens have defeated Collingwood. So that was the last game of the regular season. The Vixens winning 56-54. But it's enough for the Magpies to qualify. So they
I think 3 was the cut. They had to lose by 3, wasn't it?
And they lost by 2, so very fine margins, but they did enough to deny the New South Wales Swift. So it means the Vixens are going to finish 1, the West Coast Fever 2, the GWS Giants in 3, and now the Magpies in 4. So
Renee Ingles, just the SOS COVID, jumped into the Collingwood lineup off the plane from the US.
Yeah, because they were hit by COVID. Oh, well done.
So 1v2, 3v4 before ultimately the grand final in 3 weeks' time. Full preview up next.
If you're not going through an emergency situation right now, it might be the perfect time to explore the all-new ABC Emergency website. ABC Emergency lets you search for incidents near you, or you can check on other locations around the country. There's also a handy button that lets you listen to the local ABC radio station closest to the emergency. abc.net.au/emergency. Save it in your favourites now and keep listening to ABC Radio, your emergency broadcaster.
ABC Sport. AFL.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it! Future is now! The impossible angle! Sensational goal!
And that's what brings fans through the gate.
Roll up, it's time for the show. Forget everything that you know. You ain't seen nothing like this. It's impossible to resist.
Hand pass over to Petrarca. Harlan bloke trying to stop from the Demons. They're pouring them in now.
You ain't seen nothing like this.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
He's hit that magnificently. Side 50, massive fly from Isaac Heaney.
Gives it everything he's got. It's going, it's there.
The kid is a star.
How much do you want it? How much do you need it? How much do you want this? We're gonna be kings.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Step back inside. Sensational finish.
AFL Grandstand AFL
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
The Demons are trying to put a week from hell behind them. They'll have to do it without their All-Australian fullback Stephen May serving a club-imposed ban. Meanwhile, for Collingwood, they're on a heater. 3 wins in a row and just percentage outside of the top 8. A chance to try and keep their own win streak rolling and Melbourne's skid going. It's the annual Big Freeze fixture, the 8th edition, Neale Daniher's Super Show to try and raise much-needed funds for motor neuron disease research. This is Grandstand AFL's coverage of the Queen's birthday blockbuster at the MCG. Corbin Middlemass and Matt Clinch to call the footy. Luke Ball and Brent Harvey, our experts. Andrew Mays is with us on the boundary. There is no late change here at the G, so the Medi subs are in. We've got Tyler Brown for Collingwood, and for Melbourne, Cade Chandler is in that role this afternoon. It is chilly. It's 12 degrees. It's partly cloudy. There is a splash of red and blue and black and white across the ground, but the most common colour and theme is the royal blue of the Big Freeze beanies, which are out in force again today. And the record crowd for a Queen's birthday blockbuster clash, you have to go way back to quite a few years ago when they had 83,518 as the record crowd. There's been 5 times we've had over 70,000 for this fixture. I think it's fair to say we're headed for 70,000 plus again today, with them filled up right in the very back row of the grandstands around this beautiful modern-day sporting coliseum that is the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Andrew Mays is downstairs. Mays, you've been keeping an eye on all the sliders, the 10 of them that have made the plunge down into the icy pool which waits below. It's become, obviously, a customary thing on this day. It's the first time that we've had it back here at the MCG since 2019. Good afternoon to you.
Hello, Corbin. As you said, bad timing for the Sliders. As they were going down, sun just moving across from about Bay 25, which is where they go down, where the stage normally is for the MCG. And, so they just got a bit unlucky with the weather, unfortunately. 12.2, feels like 9. And then I reckon when you plunged into those icy cold waters, would have felt about minus 20. A few of the highlights from the Sliders. Eddie Betts kicked off proceedings. He was very popular with the crowd going down as Black Panther. Beck Madden did well as the Matrix, well wrapped up. So I think a lot of it is in your choice of costume as well. David Neitz was a bit braver, going down as William Wallace from Braveheart. So he was obviously greeted with a very warm reception from the D's fans around the MCG. Justin Langer was there as Rocky, so he didn't have a lot on to protect himself. And then Hamish Blake was Elsa from Frozen, which, as a young dad myself, particularly rings true because that is on 24/7 at my house. So he probably had the least on and got a big reception from the crowd. But one beautiful moment, obviously Neale Daniher has lost his speech and his ability to communicate like that, but he was introduced at the very beginning of the Sliders, and Beck, his daughter, who's such a big part of this movement, just held his hand up, and to a man, the entire MCG stood and applauded, and a particularly moving moment at the start of this big freeze 8. A beautiful moment, and one that I think everyone here will remember for a long time, but also great to see so many people get here early too to recognise the occasion. A lot of times these things can happen and they sort of get a little missed, but this has just become such a part of the day, even though we've got a 3:20 bounce of the ball this afternoon. A lot of the focus obviously is on what happens before, so great to see so many of the crowd here so early this afternoon as well.
Thanks, Maisie. Luke Ball and Brent Harvey, our experts. Boomer, you're not only an expert on what's going to happen in the 4 quarters here, but you've also been down the slide.
I have been down the slide, yes. I went down as a little Oz kicker. It was cold. It was cold. I tell you, you get the the crowds there and they're all cheering you. So you got that, you're up and about and you hit that water. I tell you what, once you go underneath there, it's you come up and your face expressions are all over the shop. So
you're still playing the odd game. Do you do the ice bars after the games these days at North Heidelberg, or no? You give those a miss.
So my saving grace is, Ball, I haven't played 2 games in a row. So I say to the boys, I'm not playing next week. I'm good to go. So if I play 2 in a row, I'll jump back in them.
Now we'll all be disappointed if Ash Barty, who went down, I think it's Ratfi, is it? Who holds
Rafiki.
Rafiki, right. Yeah. I wasn't even close. I couldn't remember the name of the character, but holding it down as she went down the slide, as sort of Simba was held in the air. So if that's not on Sports Centre and every other US broadcast that is obviously missing the world number 1, they're missing a trick. But the number is 63 million in which the Neale Daniher Fight MND has raised since 2014.
Wow.
So we've spoken a bit about building a stadium in Tassie. You think about raising 63 million for a cause that unfortunately hasn't had a solution. So it just shows how much of an impact he's had at a time where he's been suffering the most.
Absolutely, and the life expectancy, he's completely blown that out, Neale Daniher, since when he was first diagnosed. So 8 editions now of this great game, and what has become a real tradition, and Neale is still here for it. The Melbourne Football Club, the team in which, of course, he led to the 2000 grand final. They've made their way out onto the MCG. They're wearing their 80s throwback jumper today, so they've got the red V predominantly in the light blue or the royal blue with the white shorts. It is a Collingwood home game, so the D's are the first team out on the ground. There's no late change. Tyler Brown, the sub for Collingwood, and Kate Chandler for Melbourne. Now, the aim this year is to raise $2 million by halftime in the footy today, so that's just for this year, of course, not in totality. You can buy one of the beanies at any of the Coles or Bunnings outlets across the place. You can also get them online via fightmnd.org.au. If you want to donate, you can also do that as well by the same website, fightmnd.org.au. And there's plenty of beanies here at the MCG in the crowd. We're looking upwards of 70,000 today. A tremendous roll-up as we await the arrivals of the pies onto the playing arena. Luke Ball and Brent Harvey, there's a pretty big game of footy to follow. It's been a fascinating week for the Melbourne Football Club. They've had a blue between 2 of their players. Neither of them are out there today. There's been text messages and private conversations leaked in the press. Meanwhile, Collingwood on a 3-game winning streak, just going about their business. First versus ninth, the full game preview. What are we in for today?
Well, I'm actually really interested because I don't get to watch many teams play because of the affiliation with North Melbourne, obviously. So there's a couple of players, obviously, that I'd love to sit back and just watch the way they go about their business. One being Petrarca. I know he hasn't been in amazing form the last couple of weeks, but he's an absolute superstar of the competition. The other one is Clayton Oliver because everybody that plays on him, especially the North Melbourne boys, just say his work rate is unbelievable. There's an unsung hero for me, Bally, in the Melbourne Football Club. It's Neil Bullen.
Yep.
So for me, the Richmond model, we've got players that do different roles that allows Dustin Martin not to defend as much as he needs to, and if the ball stays in the forward line and pops back out, he can stay in the forward line, and we got players playing certain roles. Neil Bullen's one of them for the Melbourne Footy Club, and his work rate to get up and help defend, so players like Petrarca can stay forward. And do that sort of stuff. So I'm really interested in sitting back and watching the way he goes about his football today.
Yeah, really high score involvement. So I think you're right. If you equate to that Richmond team, it's the Kane Lambert role, isn't it? It's that high half-forward role. He can play mid. He's got an elite tank, massive work rate. As you see, gets up and back. It's back to support his defence and then releases back hard. They've actually got a few of them, but we've seen Melbourne live a couple of times this year. Charlie Spargo at his best plays that role really well as well. So those sort of guys, you're right, are really important, and Ed Langdon out on the wing plays that role a little bit as well to really complement the stars of their team. Yeah, he's handy, isn't he? Yeah, but I think, Corb, you've set it up for us. I think we can park the off-field stuff. They would have been counting down the minutes. Unfortunately, they had to wait to to Monday to be able to get out on the green stuff and put all that, that stuff that happened externally, the stuff that we focused on externally rather, to bed this week and get out there. Unfortunately, the two in question don't get to play, but they're really well led, this Melbourne team. Just looking out in the middle now, Jack Viney, he'll be keen to set the tone early, along with the skipper, Max Gawn, who really is in career best form, which is, for multiple Australians, a funny thing to say, but that's the thing that interests me as well, Boomer. I think a month ago, it did feel like Melbourne had gears and they were comfortable just going along in the gears that it required.
Agree.
Until a challenge came and then they'd shift into high gear. Well, the challenge came the last 2 weeks and they weren't able to match it. Now, we know that part of that was off the back of some key personnel missing, and so little crackers appeared with Stephen May not being there. Perhaps Tom McDonald at the other end shows his importance not being out there because it exposes Ben Brown to the best defender. Bailey Fritsch starts to get a bit more attention, and all of a sudden the avenues to goal start to dry up a little bit. So that'll be a focus today. We know that that's a strength of Collingwood's too, with Moore and Howe back there, playing pretty good footy. So I expect both teams to find it, on form, difficult to score today, and that might make for a pretty sort of dour affair and even more highlight the importance of the centre bounce work, where it's 6-on-6 at either end, and the team that can get the ascendancy at the centre bounce, and we spoke about Darcy Cameron with Jack Crisp, we'll get that edge, today.
Well, you've got Gawn and Jackson going against Cameron. A massive day for Cameron without Grundy. Normally we see Grundy out here doing his stuff, two of the best ruckmen in the league, but Jackson's not far behind now. He's got the ability to do some really good things in the ruck, but push forward and hit the scoreboard as well. Clinch, am I right in, I don't know if I got my stat right, but Pies won 5 out of the last 6, including last year, round 13 by 17 points.
Yeah,
so
they've had a very good record against the D's.
Yeah, Bully, there's certain teams that you match up well against, and it seems that the Pies certainly do that against the Demons. So it's going to be... I've always got a question about Pie, well, I have in the last couple of years, where are they going to get their goals from? That's been my only concern about the Pies. Well, if you look now, you got Myercheck, DeGoey, Henry, who's just popped up out of nowhere, Elliott's back in the team, and Ginnivan, who hits a scoreboard. So, is it Ginnivan? Who hits a scoreboard. So they've got some avenues now to go, and that's a good thing, because you're not relying on your DeGoeys and Myercheck kicking 9 between them to actually win the game.
Yeah, it's a little bit unconventional, isn't it? There's no real sort of traditional big key forward, is there? We know Mason Cox plays his role down there, but those guys that you mentioned, they all go about it in a slightly different way, and that'll be a challenge and I think you have against this Melbourne back 6, with or without May, you have to have 6 dangerous forwards at all times. Once they get a sniff that their opponent is working into space that isn't dangerous, that's when Lever drops off, that's when Brayshaw drops off. So the key there and some of them are young, the key there for those players that you mentioned is to be dangerous at all times today, and try and isolate and try and work some of those one-on-one matchups.
Without May, what we've seen that Lever actually has to man up a little bit more. So he's the one that pops off for me. He's the one that... You're speaking about that bully. They're irrelevant. His players become irrelevant. They get lost in the traffic, and he just says, "Rightio, I'm just going to go off here now. I'm going to do my thing. My third man up." He's a fantastic player, but without May in, he actually has to man up that dangerous forward a little bit more. And I reckon that hurts Melbourne. Well, clearly it hurts Melbourne because we see May go off with concussion. They lose. May doesn't play. They lose. And he's out of the team again today. So I think the Pies forward line, those five I just named then, can really do some damage against this Melbourne backline if the ball goes in there enough for them.
Yeah,
it's a great point.
The Melbourne system doesn't look as strong as what it's been without Stephen May. Jack Lever had just the 8 disposals and 2 marks against Sydney last week. So he kind of relies on his teammates allowing him to play that role. But his confidence hasn't been as high as what it was last season. And the other part, which you touched on, Paulie, has been sort of Collingwood scoring has been around sort of 11, 12 goals. Melbourne over the last 2 weeks have really managed sort of around 9 goals. And in their second halves, that's where their challenge has been. 2-6 against Sydney last week and 1-6 against Freo the week before. So without the personnel, I'm sure a bit's been put back on the likes of sort of Christian Petrarca and Clayton Oliver, their stars in the midfield, to try and deliver it a bit better inside their forward 50.
Yeah, we'll get a look at how they structure up forward of the ball today. I don't know much about the new boy Turner. He's a good size, 194. My guess is that he comes in. I mean, it's interesting even that they've put Tomlinson straight back out, who's the guy that seemed to be the man in the wings when a key back went down. So you'd expect him to go back. But yeah, you're right, Clinch. 3 of those goals came from Max Gawn last week. He couldn't have played any better. And he still couldn't get them over the line. So fascinating matchups all over the park today.
196 centimetre intercepting defender is Daniel Turner, the man they call Disco. So he is from Albury, and he's the first debutant that Melbourne have had since Jake Bowie last year. Now, the last time Melbourne had a debutant, they went on a 17-game winning streak,
including a premiership.
Of course. So let's see what it means for Daniel Turner later this afternoon. But Paulie, we did say up the top, look, we're going to park the off-field stuff, but both of you would have been part of footy clubs at different times when you have that sort of backs against the wall moment. And as Clinchy rightfully outlined, look, Melbourne's problems actually run deeper than that as to how they're going on field. But the emotional investment that you have come game day, given that, you know, the rest of the footy world is putting it on the club. And I'm sure there'd be guys from Melbourne thinking, hang on, 2 weeks ago we were getting compared to the greatest teams that have ever lived. And now all of a sudden we're supposedly in crisis.
It's a classic case, Boomer, of that, you know, things are never as good as they seem. So 3 weeks ago, we're the greatest team ever. Things are never as good as they seem. This week, everyone's coming at us. Things aren't as bad as they seem. And let's get out there on the weekend and get back to doing what we do best, to playing our roles. You know, perhaps maybe even subconsciously, minds started to drift a little bit. We heard Kate talk about, there's a bye coming up. Are they just sort of limping a bit towards the bye? Little things like that. Okay, we get the little shock to our system that perhaps we needed. And I think, you know, when we talk about, you know, whether what was said or not, the strength of Melbourne is that squad of 32. How deep they back, no doubt. So you would have said that coming into this year, some of those guys, you know what you're going to get from them. Where's their improvement going to come from? It is from the guys that didn't play in the premiership last year. It is from guys that missed out on it, that watched on and played a part, no doubt, because the whole squad plays a part, but that are now really desperate to taste that again. I would have said that that's their strength coming into this week. Now, that's been highlighted a bit and spoken about all week. I think that we'll see a response from some of those players, and we see a debutant come in today. So, to me, Boomer, you've been part of great teams as well. It is that depth, it is that ability to be able to call on someone, plug them into the system, be confident they're going to play their role, that makes great teams great.
No, you're spot on there, and you often, I got sucked in today as well. Petrarca, Gawn, Oliver. It's the guys underneath that you're spot on, boy. It's those bottom 4 or 5 that come in and play every single week. If they can play a huge pivotal role, you usually get the job done. The less contributors, the more contributors have, than the ones that you've got to nullify the ones that don't contribute. And if you get that close to 22, 23 now, you're going to go okay. I'll tell you the other thing though. We all spoke about, Melbourne want to get out there because of what happened last week, the off-field stuff. Don't worry about the off-field stuff. It's the on-field. They've lost 2 games in a row. Yep. Now, I tell you, a good team and good players, when you lose or you play poorly, you'd play the next day in a car park. You wouldn't care where it is or when it is. You want to play and you want to rectify what you just served up and lost in front of your supporters.
So to harness that motivation doesn't take too much.
No, absolutely.
I think we'll see him be a bit nastier today.
Yeah, a bit sharper.
That's one thing. Yeah, one thing over the last month or so. Just watching them a couple of times. Even picking opponents up off the ground, a few pats on the back. I think I'd like to see a bit more of a hard edge that they had towards the back end of last year today from the Demons.
Coin toss has just happened out in the middle. Scott Pendlebury's won that. He's pointed towards the city end of the ground. I think that we're probably closer to 80 than we are 70. There is a hell of a roll-up here at the MCG today. There are big freeze beanies scattered all around the place. Andrew Mays is in the front row for us. Maisie.
I'm not that optimistic. I reckon about 75 here, Corbin. There's a few gaps above you which you can't see. So there's a massive crowd nonetheless. It's going to be fantastic to see so many here. Of course, we've been deprived of this special fixture for the last couple of years in Melbourne, so very much looking forward to this one beginning. One of the best shows I saw was in the pre-match. So Jack Ginnivan, who every single Collingwood supporter wanted a selfie with as he went off, in the warm-up, he kicked about probably 50% of his shots from down the race, having a shot at goal. So he puts on a show in the warm-up, and I hope he can do the same this afternoon for Pies fans' sake. Great to see him in action, and also good to see the response here from Melbourne as well. They were having a bit of a laugh an hour and a half ago, and a couple of them were out there early for the warm-up, but it's all been very serious since. So they mean business this afternoon. Looking forward to this. Lights on, and conditions pretty much perfect, apart from being a little bit chilly.
I said closer to 80 than 70, and Maisie said 75. I would make that exactly right way between 70 and 80, but he's got one up me early. Quick tips, Paulie?
I think Melbourne will just find a way to win today.
I agree with Paulie, only just though.
Hope I'm wrong.
It's a privilege to be here again. It is the 8th edition of the Big Freeze game, but it is the Queen's birthday blockbuster as we've known it since 2001. Can Melbourne drag themselves out of a hellish week up against the Pies on a 3-game win streak? On Grandstand AFL, you're with Matt Clinch.
Matt's gone, stares down Darcy Cameron, and we're underway. Gawn wins down the opening tap for Melbourne. Got it away to Oliver. 1-2 with Petrarca. Kicks a shallow kick towards Cozzy Pickett. Still inside the centre square. Retreats back by hand to Oliver. He overran the footy. Little toe poke picked off by Josh Dacos. Got it away to Chris. Hand pass to Pendlebury. Started forward. Back to Chris. Runs to 50. Kicks towards Mychik. Can't take the mark on the behind line. And through for a minor score. The first score coming inside 30 seconds. It's behind Collingwood's way.
Probably had another 5 to 10 metres to run there, I reckon, Boomer. Jack Crispy had plenty of room on the turnover there out of the middle, and almost a free kick to Brodie Mychik as well. But well done, the youngster's got the job on Mychik. Turner in his first game.
Hibbert, long kick out to half-back, but it's coming back. Crisp again involved. Hand pass to Nick Dacos. Away to Maynard. Gets back on his preferred left boot down to half-forward. There's Ginnivan. Hugs it to his chest. Just over the outstretched hand of Angus Brayshaw, and he marks it right half-forward, 48 out.
And Lever actually started on Ginnivan too, so he popped back on the top of the goal square and relied on, I think it was Brayshaw from a wing or on ball to slide back and try to intercept that mark.
So Jack Ginnivan in the long sleeves, as has become customary for him. As he arcs out towards the right, he sends his drop punt goalward. It's just helped through. It hasn't scored. It stayed alive, forward pocket for the D's. Hoskin Elliott throws his body at it. Still alive, forward pocket for the Pies. Pack forms around Hoskin Elliott, and he's pinged holding the ball. Didn't do enough to get rid of it. The Melbourne free kick. Spargo's going to get it in the back pocket. There's no late change. You heard Mychek's name, so he's had bone bruising, barely trained during the week, but he's out there. No late change for either side. The Medi subs, Kate Chandler for the Demons and Tyler Brown for the Pies.
It's actually well done by Mason Cox then too. Kept that ball alive and give the Pies another opportunity to score.
Spargo eventually got to his feet. Long ball towards half back. Brent Brown in the back. Can't pull it down. Oliver could have been dragged off. He will get a free kick. At right half back for the Demons. Collingwood behind. Melbourne yet to score.
Clinchie, fourth early touch for bloke who doesn't have any problems finding it.
Drives it long towards Mitch. Brown had it plucked away from him by Darcy Moore. Doing what he does best. An intercept mark at left half back for the Pies.
It was interesting in Boom. Cozzy Pickett started in the centre bounce, almost as that Brent Harvey role, to be honest. Starts in the bounce and pushes forward.
Moore finds Cox. Strong contested mark in front of Lever. Hand pass to Crisp. Dishes it off. The kick from Adams to the top of the goal square. It skids past Mychek and Paddy and out of play. And a boundary throw in forward pocket for the Pies.
And we've seen the Hawks do that with Bruce Rioli, these type of guys. The good teams have got the ability to start somebody else in there, rush forward, and get the on-baller come from somewhere else.
Mason Cox to do the ruck work deep inside Collingwood's attacking 50 up against Warne. Makes his way to the front, tries to knock it down, almost took possession, spills out to Hibbert. Cox follows on, trying to knock it clear. Here's Disco Turner, gets a touch, hand pass to Warne, kicks towards half-back. Fritsch couldn't take the mark, Cossey's onto it, takes a bounce for Melbourne, chips it over the top into space, run onto that Mitch Brown, superbly placed. They're back to Cossey, he has no one inside 50, Maynard off his chase, ducks the tackle, but can't get around the second. Nick Dacos got him, and Braden Maynard's making sure he knows about it. Cossey Pickett taking the game on, and he needs to be careful this is not going to be reversed.
Oh, it was brilliant play from Pickett originally, because he looked up and he had Darcy Moore and no one else to kick to. He kicked it to space and just charged on and took them on one too many. Brilliant tackle.
Maynard to Nick Dacos, kicks down the wing, carries over the top of Cameron and the rest of the pack. Melbourne onto it. Viney hand pass to Brayshaw. The 1-2 with Oliver. Brayshaw against the boundary line, kicks off his non-preferred left boot down to half forward. Jeremy Howe, the former Demon, takes the intercept mark at half back for the Pies. And cue the jeers. He kicks on the 45 and Neil Bullen takes the intercept mark. Big game feel at the G as Neil Bullen kicks to centre half forward. Spargo the target. Quainer spoils. Nick Dacos gives it to Pendlebury. Petrarca tackles him. Loose ball spills to De Goey. He kicks a high up and under in the centre square, and Oliver's got it again. Takes the intercept mark for Melbourne.
Had to sit under the footy for a long time, as did Josh Dacos. Clayton Oliver with another disposal. Disposal number 6 coming up. Sends it out wide. Jordan dropped the mark. Now he's got a problem. Murphy and Cox slow the tackle. Umpire says no prior opportunity.
Pretty hot early, Boom.
It's
no
very
room to
hot.
make a mistake early. No fumbles.
It's very hot, and I'll take you back to the tackle late on Pickett. But gee, I love when those blokes with speed can actually take the game on and just take control.
55 metres out from Melbourne's goal at the punt road end. De Goey takes it for Collingwood, kicks up to Mychek on the wing, spoiled away by Turner, gets it down to Salem, back to Turner, kicks to half back. Melbourne have numbers in defence. Petty looks into the middle of the ground, nothing on offer, so drives it back inside 50. Ben Brown at the back, punched down by Darcy Moore, and Chris picks it up for Collingwood with a hand pass to Murphy.
5 minutes in, Pies by a point, the only score as the kick comes out to Ginnivan and he takes the mark, but not before an illegal shove. Free kick for Salem.
Against Elliott there, just trying to hold Salem down in the marking contest. Both teams really structuring out behind the ball, aren't they, Boom? It's in a way they defend very similarly, so really forcing the attacking team to think about how they move the footy.
Salem to Viney to Hibbert. Short kicking game, but they're retreating Melbourne all the way back to Turner on debut. Swings a drop punt out to Petty, who marks logo southern wing. Looks into the corridor. Here's Oliver, who's had it on a string. Possession number 7 coming up. Turns and kicks deep into the forward pocket. Ben Brown up. Can't complete the mark. Spills down to Fritsch. He slips over. Got tackled by Quainer. Caught holding the ball. Free kick for the Pies in the back pocket. Hot footy. 6 minutes in. Collingwood 1 behind, the only score.
What a start to this game. This had a little bit of everything so far. Numbers are getting back. They get the ball. It's very, very hot.
Zach Quainer in his 48th game in the black and white. Long towards half-back. Pendlebury underneath. Ben Brown brought it down. Petrarca front and centre. Kick smothered by Hoskin Elliott. Spills out to Cameron of the Pies. Hand pass to Pendlebury. Turns boundary side. Back into the corridor. Kicks to Crisp. Back to Pendlebury. Under pressure. Turns it over. Hand pass picked off by Oliver of Melbourne. Kicks inside the 50. Ben Brown up. Can't juggle the mark. Murphy spoils it down. Petrarca gathers. Hand pass to Mitch Brown. Kicks towards the teeth of goal. Collingwood have a 2-on-1. Fritsch with the tackle on Moore. Footy stuck to his chest. And the umpire will ball it up in the left forward pocket for Melbourne. Collingwood a point. Melbourne yet to score. 7 minutes gone on ABC Sport.
If it keeps up like this, boy, we could have an all-time record tackle game, I reckon.
And players got to recognise the pressure and just get it on the boot, Boomer. A bit too much overhand ball.
Cameron grabs it out of the ruck, kick smothered. Viney had it lost at his opposite number. Josh Dacos for Collingwood. Hand pass to De Goey, who's shoved out of bounds by Jordan, and a boundary throw in half forward for the Pies.
Yeah, real finals-like field, doesn't it? Not a lot of space. Players closing space really quickly, so the overuse of handball doesn't work when the game's hot early. Get it forward, take the yards.
Big freeze bean, he's scouted around the MCG from the boundary throw-in. Comes down to Maynard, he just chucks it on the boot to centre half back for Collingwood. Hoskin Elliott, hand pass to side bottom, sweeping hand pass to Adams. Kicks in the centre square and Myercheck takes the mark. Here go the Pies on transition. Long ball to the top of the goal square. Cox slips through his hands. Henry at the back can't trap it. Gawn just soccers it out of the danger area and out of the defensive 50.
Puts it out in the path of Jordan. He's got Josh Dacos, who's happy to see him tap it over the line. Umpire says throw it in.
Oh, geez, he had a good opportunity there, Mason Cox, didn't he? He's the sort of player that when he clucks one of those early and the crowd rise, he's in for a good day usually, but good ball movement. He had the goey too on the handball, but chose to go long.
Thrown back in, Cameron wins down the tap for the Pies. Neil Bullen can't take it, lays the tackle on to Goey, half pass to Hoskin Elliott, kicks inside the 50. Myercheck trying to pick it up down low. Turner careful not to get him high. Only 40 metres out from Collingwood's goal. Bowie tries to break through, half pass picked off by Sidebottom, gets it to Elliott, to Ginnivan, snaps on the right, hits the post.
Goodness.
3/4 of the way up, slams into the left goal post. He's been involved early, Jack Ginnivan. Highs lead by 2 points.
Oh, that's an indication of the pressure, isn't it, Bert? Because he would eat that for breakfast 99 times out of 100. Jack Ginnivan.
Kicked the first goal on Anzac Day, of course, went on to win the medal.
Did last week too. He's the first goal specialist.
And Bowie at half-back kicks down the boundary line to Neil Bullen. We saw Darcy Parish last year win the Dreamtime and the Anzac Day double. I think this is Collingwood's equivalent, isn't it? If you win the best of field honours on Queen's birthday as well as the Anzac Day fixture, the kick down the wing from the Demons is turned over. Nick Dacos puts it in the middle of the ground. Adams gets a shove by Salem and a free kick for the Pies. Defensive side of the centre circles. Pokes the kick to half forward. Mark taken by Crisp. Crisp just shuts his way around Pickett on the mark. Kicks to Cox, top of the goal square. Mason can't complete the mark. Got a bit of contact. Levers tackled with it. Ushers it out to Brayshaw. Jams it on the boot to half back.
Maynard gathers for Collingwood. Tackled by Ben Brown. Lost it. Was able to work it with Clayton Oliver. And now to Jordan. Back to Oliver. Another disposal. Up to 9 so far for the game. Ben Brown kicks inboard and finds Christian Salem.
Both teams been pretty attacking with their ball use. Trying to get it through, trying to access the corridor.
Yeah, the 45. It's the 45 both teams are looking for. Collingwood have been really aggressive at it.
Second man back for Salem. 1-2 with Harms. And now to Oliver. To Gawn. To a stationary Brayshaw. Round into a dead end. And Hoskin Elliott got it back to Gawn. The mobile ruckman kicks to the outer wing. And Ed Langdon takes the mark. One of many matchups to keep an eye on this afternoon. Steele Sidebottom alongside Ed Langdon.
The Pies are going to have to keep an eye on Oliver. They've been playing for 10 minutes and he's had 10 touches. You can't just let him run around and do that all day.
Langdon runs the boundary, kicks along towards Jackson, brought it down to the front. Fritsch involved, hand pass to Neil Bullen or Jackson. Jackson back to Fritsch, opens up the angle and kicks the opener. Melbourne on the board after 10 minutes. Beautiful transition inside 50 with some quick hand passing and Bailey Fritsch, the man you want the footy in the hands of to finish the job. Melbourne 1 straight 6 to Collingwood 2 behinds. On ABC Sport, Luke Ball and Brent Harvey.
It's really the classic 12-point play, that for me, Bully. Mason Cox had the perfect opportunity, had prime position to mark that. Yes, there might have been a little bit of front on contact, but he's got to be strong enough. He's got to be stronger there. He's big enough. He swallows that ball, he goes back and he kicks the goal. Doesn't happen. Melbourne transitioned the ball all the way up the other end and a classy finish by Fritz, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's 2, isn't it, for Cox, where he's really had the sit, perfect sit, been lovely. Kicks to advantage inside 50 and it's a game of inches sometimes, isn't it? But I think you're right with Clayton Oliver. I mean, sometimes guys are really hard to tag. You've just got to let him, you've got to pay a bit of attention. He's up to 11, as you said. It's too many.
Darcy Cameron wins the hit out in the middle, down to DeGoey, hand pass to Crisp, who's off and running. The lefty sends it out to half forward, looking for Elliott, just out of his grasp. Pitches and runs out of play in front of he and Hibbert, and a boundary throw in half forward for Collingwood.
I mean, Jack Crisp probably the man, but he's at 8 himself, so he's Collingwood's main ball winner. So I think they are playing on each other.
For the boundary throw in, it's a little shallow. Both rucks miss it. Hoskin Elliott spins out of the tackle, got it to Elliott. Spills to Jackson. Now the Demons through Neil Bullen. Hand pass to Salem, to Oliver. They're out. Sweeping hand pass to Jackson. Links up with Neil Bullen. Into the middle of the G for Fritsch, the goal kicker. His kicker turnover. Josh Dacos intercepts for the Pies.
Looks out to the southern wing. Cameron's got space. Takes the mark. Hand pass to Hoskin Elliott. Gets the left half forward. Kicks to Myercheck. On the lead as Petty fell in his back. if the mark wasn't claimed, and no doubt with some bone bruising during the week, that'll make you certainly know you're alive.
Free-flowing footy, isn't it?
It
was just a hand in there, wasn't it? They looked out through the corridor there, Melbourne. It was Oliver again able to extract it from the clearance, but I think it wasn't Dacos, but whoever just got the hand into smother caused the turnover. And Melbourne were charging forward, weren't they? Left Collingwood players out the back, so it's really interesting.
I was just trying to work out if Collingwood didn't work hard enough or Melbourne were actually so quick.
Yep.
But when they did turn the ball over, there were 6 or 7 Collingwood players out in the half-forward wing by themselves.
This is going to test his knee. He'll have to kick from outside 50. Hard out to the left. Fears out to the right. It won't quite have the journey. It's to the behind line. Cameron's there. Bowie pinches it from him. Kicks to Spargo in the back pocket. Hand pass under pressure to Viney. Trying to break the tackle of Elliott. Elliott tries to scrap back after it. Chris, hand pass to Goey. Turns and snaps and misses everything out to the right-hand side. Wrong side of the right behind post. Melbourne by 4 points.
Young Bowie's got some composure, hasn't he? For a guy that's playing just a handful of games, he's got some great composure.
Leave a long kick to half-back. Mitch Brown competes in the air, spills down to Viney, chucks it on the boot, but only as far as Darcy Moore. High half-forward for Collingwood. Hand pass to Josh Dacos. Kicks to the hot spot. Check! What a pack mark. Got himself to the front and juggles it onto his chest on the way down. They're not going to pay it.
Oh, I reckon the umpire was perhaps blindsided. I reckon he had enough of it.
They all jumped on top of him as it came to ground, and the umpire says, I'm going to have it. It's a ball up. 20 out from the Collingwood goal. Jackson wins the hit out. Hibbert had it, lost it. Charging through there, Lipinski. Pack forms, and on the bottom of them is Petty, and the ball's underneath him. The umpire says, I'll have it. Ball up 20 metres out from Collingwood's goal.
Inside 50s, 8-7, Collingwood's way. Myercheck doing the ruck work against Jackson. Comes down to Sparrow. Gets the hand pass away. Petty out of defence. Got it to Harms in the back flank and goes short to Spargo. Melbourne finding the right avenue through short passing. Spargo wheels out onto his right. Drives it towards Gorn in a wrestle with Murphy. Cleared then. Mitch Brown has it punched away. As Darcy Moore timed his run to perfection and gets a fist in to see it out of play.
And Oliver comes off and Chris comes with him, Ballies. I don't know if they are playing on each other, but as you mentioned before, Oliver's had a 12 and Crisp has had, 9. So the old shake hands at the start of the game. You see you at the end of it.
I think the Scott Pendlebury from half-back experiment's over as well. He's in the midfield getting a touch here. Kicks towards Myercheck. Lever in from the side. Takes the mark with good support from Petty. 45 metres out from his defensive goal at the city end.
And the All-Australian is down in intercept marks and intercept possessions. That'll help his numbers there as he kicks to the wing. Spills down to Petrarca. He's tackled from behind by Adams, holding the ball. Free kick for Collingwood, and boy, are they on the pies. They trail the game by 4 points. Hot start. Queen's birthday blockbuster at the MCG. And Adams goes short to Pendlebury. Pendlebury dangerous for Murphy. Too much hang time on the kick. In the other direction, Jordan takes the intercept mark, plays on, kicks to half forward, Harms the target, out in front of him, Howe there, collects, and Harms takes him out of play. A throw in half forward for the D's.
I don't say it often, do we, but Scotty Pendlebury, he's just had a couple of, well, that one was lazy, a one-step kick, he had plenty of room. Nathan Murphy, unforced error, another one over the other side with the handball too, that'll frustrate him, I'm sure.
Loop ball with you on ABC Sport. Ben Brown doing the ruck work against Cox. Comes down to Petrarca. Squeeze a kick inside 50. Nick Dacos charges out and marks on his chest. He's played in some of the big crowds in which Collingwood have featured in his first season as a Pie. Out towards Howe. Hasn't looked overwhelmed by the occasion. Now to Noble. Links up with Quaynor. He marks on his chest a juggling mark with a few metres on Cosy picking at left half back. Comes back inboard to Nick Dacos.
He goes short to Lipinski, who marks defensive side of the wing. So first Queen's birthday game for 5 Collingwood players and 4 for Melbourne today. Short kick to Pendlebury. Pendlebury goes short down the wing to Adams. Hand pass to Nick Dacos. 70 out. Kicks into the pocket. Petty spoils off his knuckles and out of bounds in the forward pocket for the Pies.
Ball use, isn't it, Boomer? I mean, it wasn't fast, but they kept the ball moving quick. No one went back over the mark. They turned and faced the game, and they short passed their way through Melbourne's team defence. Get a forward stoppage.
Boundary throw in. Cox palms it down to De Goey, never took possession, threw his arms back, wanted a free, doesn't get it. Lipinski's teammate back to De Goey, jumps on the left boot, snaps and hits the post. They've hit the same post twice now, once off Ginnivan's boots, once from De Goey. Collingwood 3 behinds, Melbourne 1 straight, 17 minutes in. Boomer.
Yeah, they've had some chances, the Pies. And even that last kick by young Dacos there, kicking to, I think it was Elliott on Petty. It's just got to be a little bit better kick it to his advantage and not to him.
Yeah, but kicked along with the kick in towards Mitch Brown. Flying in from the side was Cox. Ball spin, pinballs around, slipping over Petrarca. Harms there. Petrarca has another go. Hand pass to Jackson. Back to Mitch Brown. Over his shoulder, works to Jackson. Blazes away to half forward. And Jeremy Howe waits to take the intercepting mark for Collingwood. They're well set across half back to Pies. As Howe spins the footy in his hands, looking at options. Sends it towards McCreery. It's wide for him, and Bowie with a little shove worked him over the boundary line as he claimed the mark. But the first bite was inside the field of play. The second was over a boundary throw-in.
I mentioned 9 guys across the two teams in their first Queen's birthday game, but for Collingwood it's 10 on their first here at the MCG and 11 for Melbourne, given last year's game was in Sydney. From the boundary throw-in, Petrarca, hand pass to Bowie, long sweeping hand pass out to Jackson, under pressure, got it to Sparrow, away to Jordan, back to Jackson, hurried surge, kick to half forward, Harms back with courage, takes the mark, and Max Gawn gave him a generous block as well to protect him from the traffic behind him. Kicks to the top of the goal square. Ben Brown tries the juggled effort. It's going to be paid. Knocked out of his hands late. It won't matter. And Ben Brown, who hasn't kicked a goal in 3 weeks, has a chance to pop through the second of the game.
It's unusual from Darcy Moore, wasn't it? He looked for the man. He had front position. He actually had a good position. He just hesitated. We're so used to him just identifying the drop of the ball and going and marking it, really. But he hesitated, looked around for Brown, and in that split second, Brown was able to get around him, grab front position and juggle the mark.
He's kicked 327 goals in his career, but he hasn't kicked one in his last 12 quarters. Ben Brown, familiar long run-up and familiar finish. That goal-kicking feeling comes back. He pops it through the middle, and Melbourne have kicked the first 2 on what has been a hot start to Big Freeze 8 here at the MCG, the Queen's birthday blockbuster. Melbourne 2 straight, Collingwood 3 behinds on Grandstand AFL. Brent Harvey and Luke Ball.
And you're spot on there, Ball. I just watched the replay of Moore, and he hesitated a little bit. There's one thing you don't want to do against Ben Brown and give him a little bit of time and space. You want to body him, because I remember when we were playing with him, people were pushing him under the ball, and he jumped underneath the ball all the time. He couldn't quite get it. When he runs and jumps at the football, he's at about 12 feet. He's a big boy. He's got a great leap, and he puts those arms up. He's going to be really, really hard to stop. So Moore probably needs a little bit more body on that occasion.
Is he a confidence guy? You would have played a bit with him?
Yeah, no, absolutely he is. And you don't want to give him chances, because he only needs four opportunities. He'll grab them all, and I'll tell you what, he doesn't miss very often.
Great to have Brent Harvey with us on this Queen's Birthday Monday. Gawn wins down the tap to Oliver, back into the action. Crisp emerges with it for Collingwood. Just got the hand pass away from the Gawn tackle. Out towards Sidebottom on the wing. Taps it to Quaynor. He's tackled. There's no room to move as Sparrow lays the tackle. Melbourne come up with it. Langdon with a hand pass to Harms. Kicks low inside 50. And Howe takes the intercepting mark.
Started up Melbourne, haven't they? Around the footy there, just winning some crucial one-on-ones around the contest and the clearances.
Second intercept possession for Howe, along with a couple for Darcy Moore. Kick up to the wing. Hoskin Elliott just volleys it towards the half-forward line. Clears a couple of hands. McCreery's away. Charges inside 50. Vacant goal mouth. And he misses to the left. They've had a few opportunities early, the Pies, and they haven't been able to capitalise. 4 behinds to Melbourne's 2 straight 12.
Well, they have 11 inside 50s for 4 behinds, Boomer, and a couple of secondary chances too within that. And that's the danger, isn't it, against a team like Melbourne? If you don't take your chances early,
you've got to take
them early. They're going to become more efficient. Yep.
Hip it into the back pocket for Brayshaw, goes on a run, kicks down the line, and Darcy Moore arriving late, puts his fist through it. Out of bounds, a throw in on the wing.
That's better, isn't it? That's what we're more like. We're more used to him, seeing him do that. That's the one he didn't do in the last contest, cost him a goal, but he started pretty well, as has Jeremy Howe behind the ball.
No late change coming in. Tyler Brown and Kate Chandler, the 2 subs. I suspect upwards of 70,000 on the way to 80 here at the MCG for the Queen's Birthday blockbuster, as Cox grabs it out of the ruck, kicks it forward. In the end, that's the rugby league touch finder as he makes another 40 metres. It bounces out of play. 45 out from the Collingwood goal.
We spoke about Jack Lever earlier. He's getting himself to either Ginnivan or Henry whenever he can, and that's to come off because they're the young boys that will get lost in the traffic.
Boundary throw in. Cameron wins the hit out down to Lipinski. Lost it. Spills to Lever. He's drilled in the tackle from Elliott. Forces another stoppage. Ball up 40 metres out from the Pies goal.
It's a big tackle, isn't it? That's what he brings to this team. Jamie Elliott. Intensity in that front half. It's great to see him back.
Thrown up, Collingwood deep in attack. Gorn and Cameron tangle. Gorn tries to knock it down to Oliver. Out past to Petrarca. He jams a kick up to the wing. Ben Brown races up and top and takes the mark in front of Mason Cox. Centre wing on the members' side. Out pass to Oliver. Short chip kick finds Jordan. He looks at options in the middle of the crowd, and now 50 against Noble inside the protected zone. And it's going to take James Jordan to inside 50 and within striking distance.
Oh, that's a tough one, this one.
What's he paid there?
Oh, inside the protected area. It's just, you know what, if they're impacting the kicker, yes, totally agree with it. If they're not, we've got to let them go. It's common sense. We've got to let that one go. It's too big of a penalty. Got the ball centre wing, now he's having a shot from 35 out.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the penalty far outweighs the crime, doesn't it? I think he was actually on the mark, Noble, and just moved, just shuffled sort of back slightly and was pinged for it.
The unused medical sub in the grand final. James Jordan here on Queen's birthday Monday, making his moment count. As the Demons have the opening 3 goals of the match. They're 3 straight 18 to Collingwood 4 behinds. A little bit of a gift there for the Demons at the 24-minute mark of the opening term.
Become a really important player, isn't he, Boone? He's one of those guys. Yes, okay, he was the sub, so he gets a medal, but he's a player who looks like he really wants to, make his mark on this team and become a really permanent fixture, and he's done that. He plays on that other wing to Ed Langdon, who we know stays out there all day, and this guy must have a good tank as well because he covers a lot of ground, he gets back, and he's been getting forward in recent weeks and kicking goals.
Well, they're the guys that make the team better. You spoke about that before the game, Bally. You're spot on because, yes, he got his medal, but did he feel part of it? I'm not too sure. That's for him to decide, but they're the ones that drive the next premiership. They're guys that didn't play. They get a game now. They drive the next premiership.
So first 3 goals for Melbourne despite Collingwood leading the inside 50s from the restart back in the middle. Neil Bullen almost run down. Got his kick away off half-back Nick Dacos. Hand pass to Cameron. Short kick to DeGoey. Defensive side of the wing. Collingwood, they've got 4 behinds. They've hit the post twice and missed to an unguarded goal square. McCreary on the run earlier in the term. A long kick out wide to Hoskin Elliott, who takes a strong mark on halfway. He goes short to Crisp. Coming up for possession, 11. Clayton Oliver, the chief possession getter, on the ground with 15. Great placement. Jack Crisp hits up Lipinski, who marks 2 steps inside the 50 at left half forward.
It's been a little bit loose. Well, that passage of play, Melbourne, with the Pies have actually been able to chip the ball up a couple of times and really attack. What's that? Yeah, they've taken 23 marks, so Simon Goodwin will have his eye on that number.
He's going to have to kick it from right on the 50. Arcs around. Kicks a very high ball to the top of the goal square. They come from all directions. Spills out in front of Elliott. He falls over, hunting it. And Turner in the back pocket got it to Jordan. Can clear the defensive arc.
French has to put a marking target on because Murphy flies in from the side. Was underneath it for a long time. And I think of the battles he's had with concussion, he's finally getting a good run at it.
Yeah, he's brave, isn't he? No issue with him taking the eye off the footy there.
Kicks it long inside 50. Henry's there. Cameron as well to the front. Ginnivan taken high. Umpire saw that one.
He's got it. Did he drop a little bit there?
Yeah, I think he
Christian
did.
Petrarca's right in there making his presence known, and Jake Lever just pulling him away as the tackle slipped over the shoulder. And
isn't the obligatory spray and frustration from the tackler? It's classic, isn't it? But I just think that one's a poor tackle. He has plenty of time to. Yeah, I just think that one you got to get lower, Boom. Some of them he gets.
100%.
He makes it harder. That's just poor technique from Petrarca.
He's dropped at the knees, no doubt, slightly, but that's a high tackle every day of the week.
Yep.
The 19-year-old with number 33 on his back, Jack Ginnivan. A lot of youngsters will be nervous, anxious. He's shot on goal. He misses to the left-hand side and just hasn't been able to capitalise early. A poster and a shot out to the left. Melbourne's lead is 13 points at the 27-minute mark of the opening term.
And how about the educated footy crowd awake to the narrative at the start of the week? He and Cody Waitman about their technique inside 50 and the lack of free kicks they've been getting. He now goes past Jason Horne-Francis as the number one player in the competition to receive free kicks from high tackles. Jack Ginnivan on the back of that. Clearing kick out of the defensive 50 from the Demons. Comes to Petrarca. Hand pass to Sparrow. Back to Petrarca. To Cozzy Pickett. Shoots one over his head. Crisp at half back for Collingwood. Got it to Adams. He kicks it out on the fall under the pressure from Jackson. Free kick Demons between wing and half forward. Sparrow's going to take it. Forward 50. Crowds up. Kicks to the top of the goal square. More punches from the back, down to Neil Bullen, snaps. No one back on the goal line, and Hoskin Elliott covers it off and rushes it through for a minor score.
I'd tell you what the Demons do very well, boy. They've got great balance at the contest and the fall of the ball. There's one that goes for it, and the rest just balance off, and they do it superbly.
Yeah, and they really test the opposition's ability to maintain balance, don't they? They take the tackler on, they draw two tacklers at times, and they've always got that loose out the back.
Collingwood through Quaynor, work it up to Myercheck. It takes the mark at left half back. Now around the southern wing. Crisper's kick is adventurous. Miss Maynard looking for Noble. Jackson tries to swat it on to Pickett. Little toe poke. And the siren sounds, potentially getting Collingwood out of another Melbourne foray inside 50. An entertaining first quarter where the heat has been on and the pressure on both sides, in which Melbourne has been able to capitalise. 3-1-19 to Collingwood, 5 behinds. The goals for the Demons have come through Jordan, Ben Brown and Bailey Fritsch. Andrew Mays on the boundary.
Yeah, just a bit of a watch. Clinchy on Steele's side bottom came to the bench probably with about 10 minutes to go in that quarter, and spent the rest of the quarter off getting a lot of treatment on his right hip for the majority of that last 10 minutes. So just one to watch in this second quarter.
Thanks, Maisie. A 14-point lead for the Demons. It's just the second goalless quarter Collingwood have had all season. And it doesn't do them justice. They've hit the post twice. They've missed another set shot. They had an unguarded goal square, which McCreary couldn't capitalise on. So Melbourne by 14 points, but a hell of a quarter of footy to start on the Queen's birthday here at the MCG. Off the SMS, Fran from Melbourne. Hi, team. Great to hear Luke and Brent in commentary today. Come on the Pies. Demons will be fighting hard from Fran. Fran, appreciate your message. We are lucky to have Luke Ball and Brent Harvey with us. And we'll get their analysis on that opening quarter up next on ABC Radio, ABC News Radio and Sport Digital. This is Grandstand AFL.
To watch the latest stories from ABC News and clips from our current affairs shows online, it's time to go direct to the source. Australia's most reliable news can be found on ABC Radio, the ABC News app and the ABC News website. Download the free app now and stay across local breaking stories, updates and analysis from Australia's most trusted news. What matters to you matters to us, and it's all on the ABC News app and news.abc.net.au.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Grandstand AFL. On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Langdon runs the boundary, kicks along towards Jackson, brought it down to the front. Fritsch involved, hand pass to Neale Bullen or Jackson. Jackson back to Fritsch, opens up the angle and kicks the opener. Melbourne on the board after 10 minutes.
Kicks to the top of the goal square. Ben Brown tries the juggled effort. It's going to be paid. Knocked out of his hands late. It won't matter. He's kicked 327 goals in his career, but he hasn't kicked one in his last 12 quarters. Ben Brown, familiar long run-up and familiar finish. He pops it through the middle, and Melbourne have kicked the first two on what has been a hot start.
Towards the half-forward line. McCreary's away, charges inside 50, Bacon goal mouth, and he misses to the left. They've had a few opportunities early, the Pies, and they haven't been able to capitalise.
That's the danger, isn't it, against a team like Melbourne? If you don't take the chances early,
you've got to take
it. You know they're going to become more efficient.
Short chip kick finds Jordan. He looks at options in the middle of the crowd, and now 50 against Noble inside the protected zone. The unused medical sub in the grand final. James Jordan here on Queen's birthday Monday, making his moment count.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
It's Big Freeze number 8. The annual Queen's birthday blockbuster between Collingwood and Melbourne. The Demons, after a horror week off-field, they're 3-1-19. They lead Collingwood 5 behinds. 14 points, Melbourne's lead at quarter time. The aim for the Big Freeze game this year is to raise $2 million by half-time in the footy. I saw the running tally moments ago. It's currently at $1,996,000 and change. So hoping to get to $2 million by half-time if you want to donate or to buy a Big Freeze beanie, and there's plenty of them here at the MCG today. You can find them at fightmnd.org.au. Highly entertaining opening term, Brett Harvey and Luke Ball.
Yeah, it certainly was. And you know what? The Pies had their chances, Bally. They, I think we just spoke about it, 12 to 14 inside 50s, Collingwood's way. 5 scoring shots to 4, Collingwood's way. I really like what they're doing. They're being aggressive through the middle of the ground from the back half. They're trying to hit that 45 back through the corridor. If it comes off, they can get the handball receive and get it to one-on-ones. Melbourne, they've just taken their chances. Gee, they've got some good players. I mentioned Neale Bullen before the game, and his work rate is phenomenal. I said him getting the handball in the back 50 for Melbourne, and then he was setting up the goal in the forward 50. He's been fantastic. I didn't realise Melbourne throw the ball around a little bit like the Western Bulldogs. Their hands are elite. They got fantastic hands, and players like Oliver, 16 disposals in the first quarter that Pies need to look at. He just keeps sweeping. He gives one, he gets another one, and he's such a great ball user with composure that he hurts the opposition going forward. Big Mason Cox had a couple of opportunities. I just need to be that little bit stronger, Bally, because if he does that, he's having shots from goal in 15. He's actually a decent kick. He would have kicked them both in the ball game. Well, it wouldn't have been, 14 points. It would have been probably up in Collingwood's favour.
Yeah, it's been entertaining, hasn't it? It's at a real finals-like field. Not a lot of space out there for players, or players closing space really well. The pressure factor's been really high. And one thing Melbourne do, and you mentioned it towards the end of that quarter, is they really do maintain their balance, and they have the confidence to do that with players like Oliver and Petrarca at the footy. They don't need to overcommit extra numbers because they know those guys, more often than not, are going to win it. And at least, or take the tackler on and be able to get their hands free and release. And Collingwood a couple of times have got to be careful in committing too many numbers to the footy and allowing Melbourne to have those players on the outside and forward of the footy. Melbourne at their best, they're surging forward, aren't they? We heard Jack Crisp talk about Collingwood wanting to play forward footy, and both teams have done that to a degree in that quarter. But that's when Melbourne are certainly at their best and are able to get one-on-ones ahead of the footy. And that's the challenge for both teams. And how they move the footy. We know that behind the footy, their defence loves to set up and loves to come off and support each other. Being bold, knowing when's the time to take that 45 and open up the corridor from there. And other times you've just got to take your medicine and kick long and perhaps take the stoppage, because the clearances have been pretty even. There hasn't been a real standout. A to piece. So not a heap of ascendancy being gathered from either team around the middle. It's just been in transition that Melbourne in particular have been more efficient.
Just saw the replay of the James Jordan 50, so it's for not standing for John Noble on the mark. What do you think of that rule?
Well, but he went back. You're allowed to go. I thought you were allowed to go back.
When the umpire tells you to stand, you have to stand. If you move before he tells you that, well, then you're free to get behind the mark. But do you think that's one that'll stay, Boomer, or is that a rule they'll look at again at the end of the year?
I think they'll always look at the rules and see how it works. I actually don't mind if they go back, because they're not impeding the guy. If they go sideways, I know that's what they wanted to stop. But if they go backwards, well, teams are doing that and exploiting it anyway. They're not standing on the mark.
The reigning premiers by 14 points. Second quarter underway. Darcy Cameron wins the hit out for Collingwood and then follows up. Hand pass away to Adams. Dishes off to Pendlebury. Pies going forward. Pendlebury long, top of the goal square. Jamie Elliott flies. Hibbert spoils, but down to Cox of the Pies. Wanted to get it to McCreary. Picked off by Hibbert. And he tumbles a kick along the ground out to half-back. And Jackson, moving like a wingman, races onto it. Kicks down the southern wing for Melbourne. Not a great kick, and skids out of play. And a boundary throw-in. Almost right on halfway. The Demons by 14 points. Collingwood trailing at half-time. They haven't won a single game this year when being behind at the first break. So they've generally won more of their games from playing in front.
Jackson's spread, sorry guys, Jackson's spread just then from the centre bounce versus Cameron. Got him by 20 metres, but it was purely on work rate.
Starting in the ruck in this second quarter with Max gone forward. Wins down the tap, Cameron over the footy. Turns to the umpire. Gives the benefit of the doubt to Jack Viney on the bottom of the pack with Jack Crisp over the top. Couple of metres in from the boundary on the southern side. Cameron wins down the tap to Goey, trying to bust his way through. Tackled by Oliver. Quick hand pass from Adams. Links up with Pendlebury to the run of Crisp. Sends it long towards half forward. Melbourne have a loose in defence. And Petty flies across the front in front of Jamie Elliott to take the mark. Switches play to Harms. Had to wait a long time for the kick to reach him. He just pulled in the mark in front of Josh Dacos. Now wider still, and Spargo has it. Turns on the 45. Kicks to Lever. Thought about the hand pass to Harms. Now pushes back behind his mark. At right half back for Melbourne. The Demons by 14 points. Long kick towards Gawn. In front was Darcy Moore and Murphy. Brought it down to the front. Josh Dacos' kick inside the middle of the ground. Taylor Adams 1 on 2 on 1. Half past to Pendlebury. Kicks down low. Mycheck can't take the mark. Skiddled a few. Elliott's half pass. Ginnivan on the right boot. Snaps over his shoulder. Doesn't think this time. Just doesn't. It kicks Collingwood's first. It comes 2 minutes into the second quarter. And Jack Ginnivan's on the board. Melbourne's lead cut back to 8 points. They're 3-1-19 to Collingwood 1-5-11.
Well, they made hard work of it, Boomer, but it was the kick inside again. Josh Dacos got the hard in the mouth stuff. He had some easier ones. He elected to go for the longer 45, and it was almost cut off, but I think it was Taylor Adams was good enough to keep his feet in that contest, and then they were away. They were off to the races through Scotty Pendlebury, who just missed the kick again. He spent a little bit off today, Scotty. I'm probably going to be a little bit hard on my old mate, but he used to see him lace out the key forward there and make it a lot more easy shot at goal, but the Smalls were able to get involved. Elliott with the handball over the top to Ginnivan, and they finally hit the scoreboard or hit the scoreboard with a goal, the Pies, to get some reward for effort.
He's had 2 set shots. One didn't score, one hit the post, and now a goal for Jack Ginnivan, kicking Collingwood's first. D's out of the middle though. Jackson down to Oliver. Hand pass to Petrarca. Kicks to Neale Bullen, who is unmarked and has got it 40 out directly in front.
That's class. Not too many people players in the league would have seen that. There's vision there just to pull the ball back inside. Neale Bullen had a field because his man was already going where he thought the ball was going to go.
Now, he's been a little shaky in recent weeks. He's 2 goals, 9 on the season. 0-3 in his last 3. Neale Bullen shoots goalward, hits the post. Again at the city end. It's the right-hand goalpost as we look at it. And Neale Bullen does as well on this occasion. Melbourne 3-2, Collingwood 1-5. D's by 9 points, 4 minutes played, second term.
Entertaining for us sitting up here, Boomer. It's a real shootout in the middle of the ground at the moment, isn't it? You wonder whether one of the coaches will blink at some stage, whether Collingwood needs to put someone onto Oliver. He's just involved in every foray for the Demons.
Darcy Moore lace out to McCreary at right half back, sends it long to the wing. Mycheck got rid of Disco Brown. It was tossed on the way through. Turner's able to lock the footy in.
It's been a bit stiff a couple of times, Mycheck, I reckon. That's clearly a mark.
They've had enough of that one.
Every day of the week.
Touched off the boot, which I'm sure it wasn't. He's just missed out on one there.
Thrown up on the southern wing. Cameron taps it down for Collingwood, but straight to Viney. Hand pass backwards, picked up by Sidebottom. Hand pass to Go. He kicks a 2-on-1 Melbourne's way. Brayshaw was dragged down. He was in front. Mycheck got him over the shoulder. And Melbourne will take it on left half back with the Demons by 9 points.
Daniel Turner as a debutant as the obligatory young boy's haircut with the shaved sides and the mullet at the back, Paulie.
That's it.
As they all do nowadays, as Brayshaw goes short to Salem.
I wonder if they'll look back on it 10 years' time, Paul, like they did in the 90s of the 80s haircuts, and think, gee, what were we doing?
Did you have any of those, Paulie, from your early days? Did you ever go with the frosted tips?
I did, actually. Yeah, one off season.
Very regrettable. Short one from Salem to Viney. Kicks down the wing off the hands of Oliver. Spills to Sidebottom. So Pies win it back. Hand pass to McCreary. 2 bouncers running along the southern boundary line. Into the front half. Kicks to half forward. Cox crashes the pack. No mark. Spills down to Elliott. He's tackled, dispossessed. Comes out to Mycheck. His hand pass went straight to Hibbert of the Demons. Shoots one out wide. Wanted Brayshaw. Finds the boundary line. And a throw in. 50 out from the Pies goal at right half forward.
Like that from McCreary, Boomer. Just saw the space in front of him. He's not really a touch player, is he? Took his space, tucked it under his arms, kicked it inside 50.
It just buys a little bit of time for the forwards to get in position as well.
Brent Harvey and Luke Ball with you. Matt Clinch and Corbin Middlemass call the action. Andrew Mays on the boundary. Jackson got it down to Viney. A fumble trying to knock it to Oliver. Sidebottom slipped in for Collingwood. Kicks close to the boundary. And the boundary umpire says it stayed in. Cox tries to win it, but Hibbert with a 1-2 to Brayshaw. And Hibbert's long kick out of defence, in from the side. Adams tries to spoil it down into Goey. He's tackled by Neale Bullen. Retreating back to Cameron under enormous pressure. He sits on the MCG turf, and eventually Petrarca rips it away from him. Hand pass to Viney, kicks up to Gorn, who marks centre of the southern wing.
Not a heap up front. He's waiting for the runners, and the best running man in the game, Ed Langdon, is onto it. Takes the mark, 60 out at half forward. Turns, looks inside the forward 50. Just lays it up. Mitch Brown and Fritsch over the back. Can't reel it in. Fell awkwardly. Crisp is tackled, dispossessed. Still there to be won for the Demons. Spargo becomes tackler on Nick Dacos. Forward pocket. Umpire circles and says ball up. Deep forward for the Demons. Gee, there was a few hit the ground hard there.
I've always wondered how Melbourne get their players back and get a spare, and sometimes 2 and 3 spares, Bully. It's purely through work rate. Their mids get right back.
The ruck share it. Chris clears defensive 50 for Collingwood. Cox tackled, taken down. He's in trouble. Had an option to hand pass, decided to hang on to it. And Luke Jackson, the tackler, will be rewarded between wing and half forward for Melbourne. The D's by 9, 7 played second term.
The other noticeable thing, Boomer, is Brody Mychek's really the only forward staying at home. So Collingwood pushing a lot of their forwards up the ground. Jackson short to Salem. I think this is beyond him, 55 metres out. A beautiful kick normally. Sends it towards the teeth of goal. Gawn's in the pack. Spoiled it down. Oliver wanted it more. Crumbs it beautifully. Snaps on the right. Try for Clary. Not just getting possessions, but making them count as he snapped truly on his right boot. Clayton Oliver with 18 disposals and now a goal. Putting himself in exactly the right place at the right moment. Melbourne respond to lead by 15 points. 4-2-26 to Collingwood 1-5-11.
Well, they had 18 players basically in their defensive 50 there, Boomer. So I was going to say you would hope that there'd be no opportunity for a Melbourne mark. And when you get back, you've got to impact. So the ball's going to be on the ground. And again, just too much space, Oliver. He's such a brilliant one-touch player. Only needed half an opportunity there. But it's one thing getting back, then you've got to locate a man, and when the ball hits the ground, you've got to be able to impact. And
so when you say enough's enough, Ball, he's had 8 minutes into the second quarter. He's had 18 and kicked the goal now, hitting the scoreboard as well.
15-point lead. How about that? The service gone down to Petrarca. Hand pass to Harms. Harms into the goal. Shoots. Won't quite get it there. Maynard got a hand on it last line in a tangle with Jackson. And it's through for a rush behind. D starting to crank it up. Melbourne by 16 points. 9 played in the second.
Darcy Moore brings Collingwood quickly back into play. No free kick for Elliott, who seemed impeded. Cozzy Pickett's kick is too wide for Bailey Fritsch. And the Collingwood fans to the left of the slide for the big freeze, at least they enjoyed that kick was wide.
He had front on contact. He got whacked. He got slung. There's 3 free kicks there and he didn't get one.
So Darcy Moore has it for Collingwood, sends it towards half-back. Jamie Elliott sets himself through his hands. Bowie as well, came to Gawn, kicks inside 50, bounces off the chest of Fritsch, sliding in, tries to slap it clear. Noble for Collingwood, hand pass to Adams, back towards Noble. Fritsch pinches it for Melbourne, hand pass to Bowie, wobbling kick inside 50. Ben Brown the target, got a hand to it, couldn't take the mark. Maynard back to Quaynor, hand pass to Ben Brown, jams it on the boot, makes Collingwood pay. The unfortunate error is under pressure. Quaynor handed it straight to Ben Brown, who put through his second. And Clayton Oliver's letting a couple of the Collingwood defenders know about it. And Nathan Murphy's not taking that too fondly. And there's a wrestle in the goal square. Melbourne by 22 points, 5-3-33 to Collingwood 1-5-11. 10 minutes gone, second term. The D's with a couple in a couple of minutes.
Just starting to win the battle, aren't they, the D's? They're just, you can see they've just dialed it up. I mentioned, I wondered whether they'd be a little bit nastier today. I thought maybe a bit of that had crept out of their game over the last couple of weeks. It's been there today, and poor old Zach Quaynor, he won't want to see that again. It was just a bit of a panic. He went back into the corridor, didn't he? What's your best friend as a defender? He had to turn boundary side.
Well, he actually probably could have rushed it, to be quite honest. There was players within 3 or 4 metres of him. He could have rushed it. Players are really reluctant to do that in today's football. I'm not sure why. You get a free ball. I tell you what, the Pies need to be a little bit better at. The last 2 outlet kicks have gone both to Jamie Elliott. Great mark for his size, but just not big enough to be an outlet kick.
Oliver got a high tackle, advantage applied, hand pass found Petrarca, kicks to the hot spot, spills front and centre. Spargo there with Quaynor. Quaynor worries him out of it. Noble got it and was taken high. And he'll get a free, and the Bronx cheer from the Collingwood fans. For all their hard work, it's now Melbourne by 22.
Just need to take a bit of the sting out of the game here, the Pies. Kick and catch for a bit. Got to recognise when Melbourne have got their tails up. Out of the centre bounce, the last 3. It's been grand final 2021-esque from the Demons. Too much space. Sweeper, losing their structure. Out the front of the stoppage 3 times in a row.
Noble to Murphy, who just bangs it long to the contest on the wing. Punched down. Nick Dacos' hand pass ends up with Jordan. Side bottom locks him up straight away. The ball up 70 metres out from Melbourne's goal. As Paulie said, the D's just starting to feel it here at the MCG. 12 minutes into the second term. Melbourne by 22.
Tossed up, Warne and Cameron. Warne tries to slap it down. It ricochets out to Jordan. Turns and kicks towards the top of the 50. Harms in front, couldn't take the mark. Pendlebury spun a full 360, got the hand pass away. Lipinski tries to knock it on for Collingwood. Salem, quick hand pass. Sparrow brought down. Great tackle, Maynard. Had the chase on Cossie Pickett in the first quarter. He was right into Clayton Oliver when he was trying to let Isaac Quaynor know about it, so he's playing his role as the one of the main men in Collingwood's back six. The side bottom, and now to Nick Dacos, who turns it over straight to Max Gawn. The biggest player down the wing takes the intercepting mark for Melbourne. Across half-back. Comes inboard to Clayton Oliver. He's had 19, now 20 disposals so far in the match and a goal. Hand pass to Gawn, works it to Bowie, centre wing. Turns and kicks a high ball towards Jackson at half forward. He's got a couple to fly against. Maynard brought it down to side bottom. Tackled by Viney. Taken over the boundary line. Melbourne fans on their feet in the Ponsford stand. And now Viney will get a free.
I'm not so sure about that.
What's he paid there?
I'm not sure. So Viney runs around side bottom on the mark, kicks into the pocket. Murphy comes across, kills it. Out of play, a boundary throw in forward pocket for the D's.
That was a strange one because the non-officiating umpire paid dropping the ball, even though the ball was already over the boundary, which we know that you don't... Anyway.
Because if you're getting judged on your actions over the boundary line, it's going to make for a long day from the boundary throw-in. Cameron pushes it down for the Pies, but Sparrow's there. Hand pass to Spargo. Gives it to Harms close to the boundary line, and Murphy just puts his hand on the footy. That's out of play in front of the boundary ump. And another throw-in, another stoppage alongside the behind post here. Deep forward for the D's. Melbourne by 22.
Thanks for your correspondence on the SMS with the AFL stream being down. We'll try and get our people to talk to their people. From the throw-in, Viney tries to charge his way through. Tackle. Crisp now, rips the footy from him. Maynard knocked it on. Lipinski off balance. Under pressure, kicks to the back pocket. Side bottom, little toe poke towards the boundary line. Jordan takes him across. Umpire says throw it in.
It's amazing you speak, Clinchy, and things get fixed.
It's almost as magical as what happens at our house. Dinner time, I speak and it's ready.
Apparently the stream's back.
Just hanging on for dear life here, the Pies. Every disposal under pressure.
Back up and running on through the AFL website from the boundary throw-in. Jackson palms it down to Oliver. Kick smothered. Still deep forward for the D's. Oliver trying to hand it out of the pack. Got it to Sparrow. Little fumble. Cameron off his knees. Hand pass to Maynard. Run down as he went to get his kick away. Spills to Bowie. Bowie's tackled. Drilled by McCreary. And the umpire says, I'll have it. Ball up. Centre half forward for the Demons. Floodlights on. Mostly cloudy day. A cool 12 degrees. The yellow Sharon tossed up in the air. Cameron's kick smothered. Jackson scrapping forward at ground level. The Collingwood ruck joins him on the ground. And another ball up, centre half forward for Melbourne.
And Melbourne won't mind this. The game's getting played in their forward half, bullies. So repeat stoppages, repeat inside 50s.
The Demons with 2 goals to 1 in this second quarter. As Nick Dacos cannons into an opponent. Hand pass backwards to Maynard. And now to Murphy around his body. Bowie's in front against McCreary. He spoils it down. Melbourne on half forward can't regather it. With Spargo and Jordan both trying to gather the loose footy. As it goes out 50 metres out from Melbourne's goal at the city end. It's the Demons by 22 points. Gawn sets himself in front of Cameron. Taps it beautifully to the back to Harms. Hand pass to Jordan. Quick kick inside 50. Good mark taken by Maynard. Has been noted on the SMS. Seems to have taken the angry pills today.
Yeah, he's been good though. He's stood up, been physical back there. They've been right under the pump, and it's his 7th possession for the quarter too. So standing up.
Had 32 last time they met. Queen's birthday last year. And the Pies 17-point win. Braden Maynard goes to Lipinski, who kicks along to the wing. Maynard puts his head over it, bowled over. Bowie for the Demons, hand pass back into the corridor. Oliver, a clever touch, got it to Sparrow, threw his arms back, no free. McCreary got it out to Cameron, who fumbles. McCreary again to Pendlebury. A little too casual, mowed down by Viney. Oliver wants to take the advantage, hand pass to Harms. He's tripped in the tackle from Maynard. says play on, he's put the whistle away. Maynard just sockers it into the centre square. Brayshaw with desperation traps it. He's going to get a free kick as Lipinski fell into his back. And Angus Brayshaw in the headgear, as we've come to expect. Melbourne by 22 points midway through the second term. Gets the free back edge of the centre square.
Looks to drive Melbourne towards half forward. Max Gorn, crisp, set himself in front. Ricocheted into Nick Dacos, tucked the footy under his arm. Hand pass to Goey to Quaynor through the middle of the MCG. Long kick towards Ginnivan and Henry. Henry pushed out of it. Petty takes the mark. 35 metres out from his defensive goal. A good win for the Melbourne defender. Out to the right back pocket to Bowie. And now to Hibbert.
It was a great win. It was a great win because Ginnivan had snuck out the back by himself. The ball hit the ground. They were in a bit of trouble there, the D's.
Oh, Bowie missed lever. A chance for the Pies. Mychek. Hand pass to Elliott. Billy on the run. Swinging shot on goal. Misses to the left. And that summed up Collingwood's half. 1-6 to Melbourne's 5-3. It's the Demons by 21 points.
It's that last kick going inside 50 that they've just got to get better at the Pies. I reckon they've had more opportunities than Melbourne of kicking that ball inside 50 and being clean, and they're just not hitting it.
Brent Harvey with Luke Ball, Corbin Middlemass and Matt Clench. The kick out finds Salem back pocket. Goes long up the line to Sparrow, who marks at half back. They've missed 2 on the run. They should have kicked Collingwood. They've had 2 hit the post and missed 2 set shots. They're 1 goal 6. As the short pass along the line from Sparrow finds Langdon. He's got the rolled up long sleeves and the headband on as he goes short to Viney. He's had a bit of it. Melbourne by 21. 18 played, second quarter. And Viney with his preferred left boot down to half forward. Jackson flies, spills down to Neil Bullen. Jams it on the boot. Wide kick. Too wide for Cox and gone and out of play. Just around from the slide, it is the Big Freeze, of course, event. The annual mega event run by Neale Daniher, of course, raising much-needed funds for MND. You can go to fightmnd.org.au to donate.
Toss back in, clears Gorn and Cox. Cox tries to follow up, knocking it to Lipinski. Becomes a tackler on Viney. Was he held when not in possession? Comes to Harms. He had a long time. Now to Hoskin. Elliott under enormous pressure. Squeeze a kick towards the boundary. Lipinski's taken out as Ed Langdon lays the tackle.
I'm not sure any of that ice is melting today in the 12 degrees here at the G.
I thought so. No. As is always the case, the outfits critiqued. Terry Daniher as Crocodile Dundee was another good one. Melbourne by 21 points here at the MCG. Approaching time on in the second term. Gorn tries to work into the back. Nick Dacos picks it up for Collingwood. Hand pass to Penderbury. To De Goey. Slaps it cleverly into the path of McCreary. Back to De Goey. Looks up to 50. He's got an option in Henry. He gathers on the bounce just inside 50. Kicks towards the goal mouth. Mychek's there. He's got it this time. He marks on the goal line. Just able to work Luke Jackson, who was out of position under the footy. And surely Collingwood can't miss this one.
No, you wouldn't think so. Great transition of footy, wasn't it, from that half-back stoppage. That's really training drill stuff, that Boomer, isn't it? Three-quarter ground. Great linking up.
Collingwood's leading goal scorer this season comes in, point-blank range, and finally they have their second goal. It's taken a lot of hard work. The effort and the attitude can't be questioned. It's just the execution. They're 2-6-18 to Melbourne 5-3-33. 20 minutes gone, second term on ABC Sport.
Yeah, you're spot on, boy. They actually took that ball from the opposition half-back flank back through the middle of the ground. There was a couple of little, to De Goey, I think he knocked the ball on, but that's just surge football. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And you get a one-on-one down deep, what you want. Mychek, it was great work by Jackson because he was the ruckman getting back, I think, but really good body work by Mychek. And marks in the goal square, goes back and gives Collingwood a much-needed goal.
Yeah, much needed. Bit of reward for effort.
8 scoring shots each now.
Centre bounce is a big watch here for the Pies. They've been cleaned out the last 3. Just need to shut it down.
That's Cox, their secondary ruck up against Gorn. Cox wins the hit out, but straight down to Viney. Hand pass to Petrarca to Gorn. Sweeping hand pass to Jordan. So centre break for the D's. Kicks to half forward and Spargo marks. Right on the 50. 5 in from the boundary line. Tries to run around Quaynor on the mark. Lays it up for Jackson.
Oh.
And Jackson, the strong contested grab in front of the behind post. He'll kick 5 in for the boundary line. Right forward pocket for the D's.
Australia to the centre bounce again.
They sharked him.
Yeah.
Viney sharked.
He did, yeah.
Cox then.
Wingman lost his width and allowed the outlet, but he's athletic, isn't he, this guy?
He was just a full-back competing with Mychek there.
He just covers the ground so well. He had Jeremy Howe to contend with in the air there and just outreached him.
Kicked a couple in the corresponding fixture last year. Luke Jackson moves in, hits it a little skinny, misses near side. Time on second term, Demons by 16 points now. 5-4 to 2-6. Grandstand AFL.
Maynard into Moore for Collingwood. Kicks it to the right back pocket and then drives it up to the wing. Ginnivan and Bowie. Bowie got it down to Mychek. Hand pass too slick for Hoskin Elliott. Sliding in Sparrow. Hand pass away to Viney. Squeeze the kick towards half forward. Too wide for Neil Bullen. Moore's able to knock it on. Got it to Chris. Now to Maynard. Kicks it into the middle of the ground. Sliding down low. Elliott has it. Hand pass back to Maynard. To Quaynor. Gets around Jordan. Drives the kick towards Mason Cox against Lever. He's got it. The big American. Marks in the left forward pocket.
Well, there's some transition football for you, Bally. That was quick, it was slick, and it was back through the corridor, exactly where the Pies have been trying to play all day.
They've been able to access the corridor unusually well against this Melbourne team, I think, and he might have got away with a little nudge in the back there, Mason, but he's been threatening, hasn't he? I really liked his work rate. I think he's covering the ground really well, getting to a lot of contests. If you do that, usually you get rewarded.
Matey's debut on Anzac Day. Mason Cox comes in and misses to the left-hand side on a 45-degree angle. 35 metres out, couldn't take the chance. Collingwood 2-7-19 to Melbourne 5-4-34. Couple of good transitions to the Pies to result in shot on goals.
He's 1 goal, 4th on the year. Mason Cox is Hibbert from the kick out, goes long to the wing. Gawn competes. Murphy knocks it down from the back. In fact, it was Darcy Moore from the back. Down to Oliver. Hand pass to Neil Bullen. Dishes off to Viney. Back to Neil Bullen, all by hand at centre half back. He kicks wide to Jordan. Marks in plenty of space using the full width of the MCG. Chips short to Spargo, who marks just in front of the Collingwood bench. Beneath us and the members as he chips down to half forward. Mitch Brown can't mark through his hands. Petrarca keeps it alive, tumbles it inside 50. Howe trying to go with the 1-2 with De Goey. Intercepted by his own teammate, the Dacos boys. Nick to Josh. Goes back to Murphy. Hurried kick into the corridor. Dangerous. Cameron tries to swat it down, but Viney for the Demons. Hand pass to Lever, who just shoots one forward.
Nick Dacos gathered, kicked end over end towards Adams, racing after it with Spargo, tried to slap it to McCreary. The two in a tangle with the ball below them, and Spargo taken high. He'll win the free kick for Melbourne on the members' wing.
These little crucial contests, aren't they? All over the ground, just getting a hand in. Spargo, another one of those really important role players with a high work rate, gets up and back, high half forward. Been good again today.
Collingwood with 3 of the last 4 scores. Demons still by 15 points. Kicks towards Max Gawn at half forward. Viney has an arm pinned. He's penalised, holding the footy. Good tackle by Nick Dacos. Collingwood will take it back at left half back.
Nick Dacos, hand pass away to Noble. Northern wing at the MCG. Kicks to a 2-on-1. Darcy Cameron the target.
Wow.
There's a free for a hold, and Darcy Cameron's going to get it. But he's jumped the targets by Petty. 70 out for the Magpies. Short kick to McCreary. He's 55 out. Cox is all alone. He can mark it centre half forward and does. 40 metres out, dead in front. Mason, who missed moments ago, has a chance to make good.
Has he got the distance here? He doesn't kick the ball very long, Mason Cox. He sort of pokes at it. He's a pretty good kick close in. I don't know, we've just seen him miss one, but he hasn't got a lot of distance on his kick.
Really like McCreary's game. 2 boomers. He only had the 7 possessions, but it just felt like he's been a lot more involved than that.
Yeah, I agree.
A real impact on the game.
Gee, Max Gawn walks off the ground, spraying the Collingwood bench. As Mason Cox, his set shot again misses to the left. One thing he has been is a remarkably good kick of the footy for a guy that didn't grow up playing our game and a tall player, but he's 1 goal 5 this year, which is uncharacteristic from his goal-kicking returns.
He was there when he first walked in the door. He could barely hit his foot, honestly.
Yeah.
And in fact, the current coach, who was the development coach there, did about 3 months of work with him over the off-season.
Bowie from the back pocket for Melbourne up to the wing. Ben Brown couldn't take the mark. To go, he puts a hand pass out in front of Crisp. Here they go again. Mychek in from the side. He marks on his chest. Slipped in front of Harrison Petty to take the mark. He's directly in front, 35 metres out from goal.
And that's a lot better. That last kick inside 50, Bully. Always say, give the ball to the kickers. Chris, he's not a bad kick.
So we've seen Mason Cox have a couple of shots on goal. Collingwood fans would feel like it's in a reliable set of hands. Brodie Myercheck, the 3-time leading goal scorer, picked up from Port Melbourne in the VFL. He's been a handy inclusion for the Pies, looking to try and close the gap. Myercheck steers it through. And the margin all of a sudden is back to 8 points Melbourne's way. 5-4-34 to the Pies 3-8-26. 2 goals apiece in this second term. Down to Andrew Mays on the boundary.
Yeah, it was quite uncharacteristic there of Max Gawn to come off and absolutely give it to the Collingwood bench. So Isaac Quaynor, Scott Pendlebury and also Jack Ginnivan were in the vicinity. So whether he was staring straight at them and giving them a serve, it was quite unclear. He is favouring his left boot. He's going to go down the race, a left foot rather. He's going to go down the race at the moment. Just have that checked out by the physio. So I'll keep an eye on him when he re-emerges.
Yeah, a little bit interesting. I like a little bit of verbal on the ground, especially when it comes and spills over to the bench. Clinchy, it's not bad. It means something.
Did you ever get involved in any of that, Ben?
Nah, not me.
No.
Never.
Of course not. Melbourne by 8 points. Pies with the last 2 in the game, so outclassed at times, but as brave as they come. Bank in the middle. Jackson grabs it out of the ruck. He's run down. Ball trickles away to Nick Dacos. Hand pass to De Goey. The 1-2 with side bottom. De Goey keeps moving out wide on the southern wing. And then back pedals. Hand pass to Noble. He just has to kick long to a contest down at high half forward. And Henry, who's been really sided, nudged out of the way. And Hibbert takes the intercept mark for Melbourne.
Great chase by Jack Viney then. Just forces the ball wide, gives his defenders an opportunity, buys them some time.
And Viney at the drop here as Hibbert kicks it down the wing. Spills though to Noble. Hand pass off the deck to Crisp. He coughs it up. Sparrow for the Demons. Hands it to Oliver, who kicks to half forward for Melbourne.
Mitch Brown against 2. Murphy in front. Has it spoiled away from him, and it's out of play for a boundary throw in. Left half forward for the D's, closing in on half time.
The Pies have really wrestled this game back the way they want to play it now. They've evened up the inside 50s, 13-10. Melbourne's way, but they were down by a long way before that as well.
Lights on at the MCG, but the natural light still doing the job for the moment. Cox took it out of the ruck, stripped of it. Petrarca's hand pass too wide for Viney, knocked it into the path of Oliver. Kick partially smothered by side bottom. Viney with the hand pass back to Oliver, bumped off it. He's kicked straight into the lap of Josh Dacos. Kicks up towards Henry. He takes the mark centre wing. Is there enough time for the Pies? He looks towards half forward, drives a long kick towards McCreary. He and Salem do battle. Melbourne numbers race back. Lever with the hand pass to Bowie. Got it to Salem, who just holds for a moment, almost knowing that the siren was about to sound, and is happy to head to the main break with an 8-point advantage Melbourne's way. They're 5-4-34 to the Pies 3-8-26. So Collingwood with 2-3 in that term to Melbourne's 2 straight, after the Pies were held goalless in the opening quarter, 5 behind to Melbourne's 3-1-19. So Melbourne by 14 points at quarter time, by 8 points at half time. And the goal scorers for the Demons: 2 to Ben Brown, individuals to Oliver, Jordan and Fritsch, while for the Pies 2 to Brodie Myercheck and Jack Ginnivan, the other goal scorer.
So the Pies edging the quarter on the back of Myercheck's second, and an 8-point game at half time. The scoring shots 11-9, so actually in Collingwood's favour. And if we look at the match in its entirety, the inside 50 count 26-24, so Melbourne leading that, but just by 2 points. Off the SMS, Mike in Kyneton enjoying the call as always. Pies playing a little better than the D's, but if the Pies can't kick straight, then they're history. Nice to hear from you, Mike. The SMS number 0437 774 774. The thoughts of our experts at half-time, Luke Ball and Brent Harvey.
Well, Mike's on the money in a certain way, Boom. I think maybe for the first 10 or 15 minutes of that quarter, Melbourne felt like they were on top, and it just dialed up the intensity around the footy. They were winning the ball out of the set of bounce a little too easily for Collingwood's liking, and able to get that surge mentality forward. But they actually held up pretty well, Collingwood, behind the ball. Maynard had a terrific quarter. I think he was the general back there, had 11 possessions. Moore had some good moments. Young Murphy is really emerging as a player. So for that period where Melbourne really had ascendancy and dominance and were able to have repeat inside 50s, Collingwood really did hold up pretty well to restrict them to 5 goals, 4, and then a couple of times they were able to get them on transition, and that will concern Simon Goodwin and the coaching staff a little bit. Is a couple of times Collingwood were really able to transition the footy from back half to a shot at goal.
Yep.
Far too easily and far too in terms of what we're used to seeing from this Melbourne defence, and again, we're used to seeing Stephen May being that goalkeeper across half-back. OK, they've lost that, and they've seemingly lost a bit of structure off the back of it. So, yeah, Collingwood were able to move the ball really well through certain periods of that quarter and just weren't able to capitalise to even up what really has been a pretty even contest, a really entertaining contest. I think around the footy, apart from that centre bounce dominance from Melbourne in that quarter, Collingwood have been pretty good, and the numbers probably reflect that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we spoke about Melbourne were really happy at the start of that quarter. I think it was the first 10 minutes. The ball hadn't really even entered Collingwood's forward line. So Melbourne would have been really good, but to Collingwood's credit, they got the game back on their terms. They're still getting that goalkeeper. It's not May today, obviously. Petty's been that man a few times. So maybe they're getting their ball use through the forward that's coming up and being through that middle of the ground, because they're going through the middle of the ground. And you're right, Goodwin, I think Simon Goodwin will address that at half-time break. But they've been good, the Pies. I've really liked the way they've got themselves back into this contest. De Goey's been really influential through that middle of the ground. And you're right, Maynard and Crisp has got their hand on the football. Oliver's had 27, I think we said. He needs to... They need to negate him, because he can end up with 45 and he will be the difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, 4 score involvements, 3 inside 50s and a goal. So, the contested footy, you can't do a heap. Sometimes a guy's just a beast in there, which he is. But those ones where he's getting out into a bit of space are the ones where, if it's a Crisp, maybe it's a Maynard, to sacrifice his role across half-back.
I don't know how they do it, but they've got to do something.
They've got to find a way.
They can't let him get the easy ball wrapping around the outside.
Maybe it's the skipper. Maybe it's Pendles who goes to that sort of more defensive style midfielder. But I think if you let it just play out and leave it as a shootout through the middle of the ground, you just feel like Melbourne's depth through there will be able to overpower Collingwood. But it's been enjoyable sitting up here and watching it. I mean, Crisp's been terrific himself at 19. De Goey's had some real moments. He's had 15. Adams has worked away. He's had 11. And Viney, I thought, had a terrific quarter then as well. He had 11 that quarter. He's had 16, Petrarca 15. But at some stage you feel like the Collingwood midfield coaching staff need to just have a card up their sleeve to be able to say, right, for 10 minutes here, he can't touch it.
Bang, yep, let's knock this over. 11 scoring shots to 9, Collingwood's way. They're in this up to their teeth. They're right in this. They'll walk in with a lot of confidence this half and say, let's go, match them this half, and we kick straight, we win this game.
It was similar on Anzac Day, wasn't it? Darcy Parish had 30 disposals to half-time. So when do you challenge the individual to say, righto, he's your direct opponent, so seems like he's getting a bit too much of the rope, or when do you go, righto, this is clearly our players can't manage it, let's send a direct player to try and tag him because the influence is significant enough.
Yeah, and again, it's easy sitting up here talking about it because not many teams have been able to do it this year to this bloke. I think at the moment he's the best player in the competition, and it's his ability. Some of the ones around the clearances, as I said, you can't do a heap of bit about. I mean, make sure you start with an arm across him, because once he gets on the move, he's almost impossible to stop. And it's not only it's not the possession as such, but it's the impact that he has on opposition teams, because he gets it, he draws a second tackler in. And a couple of times there we saw Petrarca or Harms get out the front of the stoppage because the Collingwood players collapsed
to him.
Yeah, to go to Oliver. So it's the flow and impact that he has as well. So
there's another way you can look at it, Board, because you can concede and say, right, he's going to have clearly more than 30 today, but before the game you can say, right, Oliver's going to have 30 today. He's going to get a lot of clearance work, which is really hard to nullify and stop. It's what he's doing with the football as well. So he's only had the 3 inside 50s out of his 27 touches, and maybe that's something that Collingwood look at. They might say, let him have his 40 as long as they're in the back half.
He's had 13 uncontested, which I think's the one. That's the one. Okay, contested. He's going to get those. Yep. Make sure that someone's hanging off him when he does. Make sure there's a body on him at least. But it's the ones where he's able to run around the ground with a bit of freedom. They're the ones you can cut out a bit in this second half to try and... If the goal he kicked, he waltzed into the front, into the forward 50 by himself.
It was a stoppage, wasn't it?
Front and centre, so...
And Collingwood would be filthy on that.
They would. They're the ones that you've got to cut out, or try and cut out this half.
And Craig McRae would like it when Collingwood went through the middle of the ground. That was probably a couple of occasions where their transition was at its best.
We heard Jack Crisp talking about forward footy, and even the handballs are going forward, aren't they? And a couple of times it's been a bit ugly and hasn't come off, but they really are starting to establish a strong brand through there, and it's exciting, isn't it, when it comes off?
It is the Queen's Birthday blockbuster at the MCG. Melbourne by 8 at half-time. It's also Big Freeze 8 Fight MND trying to raise $2 million by half-time of the footy. That's where we are right now. So if you want to donate or grab a beanie, you can head to fightmnd.org.au. We had the 10 sliders going down the slider pre-game. Terry Daniher dressed as Crocodile Dundee. David Neitz as Braveheart. We had Ash Barty as Rafiki holding young Simba into the icy pool at the finish. And, of course, Justin Langer was dressed as Rocky. Big fight fan, JL, so came dressed appropriately today. Feels like a Rocky fight here. There's a lame commentary pun for you at half-time at the MCG with Melbourne by 8 points over Collingwood. Second half action around the corner, but first, let's see what's happening in the ABC newsroom.
ABC News with Satyam Weinstein. New analysis shows companies exporting gas from Australia are 95% foreign-owned. The Australia Institute studies found 7 out of 10 gas export projects are at least 90% internationally owned. The findings come as households and businesses face soaring gas prices fueled by increased local and overseas demand. A principal advisor with the Australia Institute, Mark Ogue, says it exposes Australian gas customers to global prices.
Australian households and businesses have to compete with exports for our own gas, and so the companies making windfall profits, and 95% of those profits are just flying directly overseas.
Disability advocates are welcoming the Labor government's promise to restore trust in the National Disability Insurance Scheme. The Minister, Bill Shorten, says he'll crack down on fraud and other illegal activity inside the scheme, as well as fix what he's calling the bureaucratic nightmare. Mary Mallett is the CEO of Disability Advocacy Network Australia and says she's pleased Mr Shorten will also address the legal battles participants find themselves in when their plans have been changed.
The person with disability can then sometimes get support from a disability advocate or a legal aid lawyer, but there's limited resources for that. The NDIA spends a lot of money on external law firms. The NDIA is well represented, but there's a very unequal balance of power.
A Nurunjiri man and university professor says South Australia is not the only jurisdiction taking its own steps to introduce an Indigenous voice to Parliament. The South Australian government says it shouldn't have to wait for the federal government to act and will prepare its own First Nations voice to Parliament. The Attorney-General, Kaya Maher, says the previous Labor state government had led the nation when it began its own treaty process. Daryl Rigney, who's a professor of Indigenous nations and is on the advisory group for the Indigenous voice to federal Parliament, says South Australia is really just picking up where it stalled 4 years ago.
In Victoria, Queensland and the Northern Territory, there are already treaty processes underway that would create mechanisms at that state level and territory level around a voice through a treaty process. So I don't think we're pushing forward in the absence of what's going on in other parts of the country.
The New South Wales state member for Lismore, Janelle Safin, says an incident control centre in the north of New South Wales could have made a difference in this year's devastating floods. The New South Wales government's budgeting nearly $133 million of new money, which will include building a new incident control centre in Lismore. The SES was overwhelmed during the floods in the Northern Rivers earlier this year with questions over the adequacy of resources. MP Janelle Safin says staffing is a key issue.
They have the ability to attract more volunteers, but the important point I'm making is work with community. They are the volunteers. They're out there doing things, and having volunteers who are our community and wonderful with the local community who aren't there 24/7 with the SES.
The University of Western Australia has formed a new partnership to produce psychedelic compounds for pharmaceutical applications. UWA and Melbourne-based psychedelic medicines manufacturer Natural MedTech are using synthetic biology to create psychedelic molecules. The lead researcher on the project says the partnership will help improve the mental health of Australians. Another UWA study is looking at using LSD to treat mental health disorders. The late cricketing legend Shane Warne is among Victorians who've been recognised in today's Queen's birthday honours. Yvette Gray with the details.
Shane Warne has been appointed an Officer of the Order of Australia. Warne, who died in March, received the honour for distinguished service to cricket as a player, role model and commentator, and to the community through charitable initiatives and for philanthropic contributions. His father Keith says his son always looked to support those less fortunate.
We hope his legacy will inspire many generations to come.
Other Victorians honoured today include Emergency Management Commissioner Andrew Crisp, Cancer Council Victoria Chief Executive Todd Harper, humanitarian aid worker Jacqueline Pascal and refugee advocate Nadol Nguyen.
The winner of the Best New Play at the Tony Awards has been taken out by the Lehman Trilogy, which tells the story of American financial giants' downfall. Stefano Massini's play about what led to the collapse of the Lehman Brothers company stars Adrian Lester, Simon Russell Beale and Adam Godley. Beale also won a Tony Award for Best Leading Actor. Based on real events and spanning 150 years, the play follows the fortunes of a single family into the financial crash of 2008 when their Wall Street institution filed for bankruptcy. ABC News.
ABC Sport now has its very own newsletter, and we'd be pumped to have you on board.
Woohoo! The ABC of Sport will provide a wrap of all the best stuff that's happening in sport every week.
Simply go to abc.net.au/connect
and get ready for a sport hit in your inbox every Friday.
Get on board with the ABC of Sport newsletter
for content that makes you think
or allows you not to.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Grandstand AFL. On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Taylor Adams 1 or 2 on 1. Half past to Pendlebury. Kicks down low. Mycheck can't take the mark. Skittled a few. Elliott's half pass. Ginnivan on the right boot. Snaps over his shoulder. Doesn't think this time. Just does it. And kicks Collingwood's first. It comes 2 minutes into the second quarter. Sends it towards the teeth of goal. Corns in the pack. Spoiled it down. Oliver wanted it more. Grubs it beautifully. Snaps on the right. Trade from Clary. Not just getting possessions but making them count as he snapped truly on his right boot. Clayton Oliver with 18 disposals and now a goal. Fritsch pitches it for Melbourne. Hand pass to Bowie. Wobbling kick inside 50. Bend round the target. Got a hand to it. Couldn't take the mark. Maynard back to Quaynard. Hand pass to Ben Brown. Jansen on the boot. Makes Collingwood pay. Back to the goey. Looks up to 50. He's got an option in Henry. He gathers on the bounce just inside 50. Kicks towards the goal mouth. Mycheck's there. He's got it this time. He marks on the goal line. Surely Collingwood can't miss this one. Collingwood's leading goal scorer this season comes in point blank range, and finally they have their second goal. It's taken a lot of hard work to go. He puts a hand pass out in front of Crisp. Here they go again. Mycheck in from the side. He marks on his chest. Slipped in front of Harrison Petty to take the mark. He's directly in front, 35 metres out from goal. Looking to try and close the gap. Mycheck steers it through. And the margin all of a sudden is back to 8 points Melbourne's way.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Sounds there from the second quarter. Collingwood kicking 3 goals to 2, and after trailing by 14 points at quarter time, the Pies are back within 8 at the half. They've actually had more scoring shots. 3-8-26 Collingwood, Melbourne 5-4-34. The Demons did lead by as many as 22 points midway through that second term. This is Grandstand AFL, the Queen's birthday blockbuster at the MCG. Of course, it's also doubles as Big Freeze 8, raising crucial funds for motor neuron disease. We had the sliders going down before the start of the game, en route to raising $2 million this year alone for the cause. Neale Daniher, along with his family, were out there pre-game pushing a number of sliders down into the icy pool, which waits at the bottom, among them the likes of Ash Barty, David Neitz, Justin Langer, Terry Daniher and others. So on the way to $2 million raised. If you want to donate or to buy a Big Freeze beanie, there's plenty of those here at the MCG today. fightmnd.org.au. Now, in other sports, a win for the Vixens over the Magpies in the last game of the regular season, but the Magpies got close enough and did enough to qualify for the postseason. So as a result, they play the Giants next week. That's a cutthroat final. The minor semi and the major semi will be between the Vixens and the Fever, with the winner to get direct entry through to a grand final, which will be played in Perth, which has caused a fair bit of controversy in the Super Netball. In the NRL, the Canterbury Bulldogs are playing the Parramatta Eels. The Eels started a heavy favourite, and yet 5 minutes before half-time, it's a shutout for the Bulldogs. 16-0. Canterbury leading Parramatta at the moment. Off the SMS, 0437 774 774. Hi, ABC team, fight M&D, go D's. Listening to ABC's Sydney News Radio. Two legendary experts. We think they're pretty cool as well. That's from Grant. And our experts are Luke Ball and Brent Harvey. Matt Clinch alongside myself, Corbin Middlemass, and Andrew Mays is on the boundary. The other big news story or footy story during the week, Bally, concerns Bailey Smith, a young man who you had a bit to do with. He spoke to the Herald Sun, revealing his mental health battles, which include chronic anxiety. It appeared on the front page of today's paper. He said, I reckon I went days without eating, even brushing my teeth, leaving my bedroom. I couldn't talk to people. Smith had already apologised for indulging in behaviours in late 2021, of which he said he's deeply ashamed, and also mentioned that his mental health dramatically deteriorated during that time. He said, I own it, I don't shy away from it, but it's hard to own up to that when it's such an embarrassing thing. It's a period of my life where I feel ashamed. I'm extremely remorseful, embarrassed. It's something I've got to live with. The feeling is there will be a sanction incoming. He's already going to serve a 2-match ban for an on-field headbutt, and now he's the subject of an investigation by the AFL's Integrity Unit. I remembered an article which Sam McClure wrote years ago in The Age concerning Bailey Smith and your connection to him, Bally, and an episode which you experienced when he was playing for Xavier in school footy.
Yeah, my older brother and I spent a couple of years coaching the Xavier school team, of which he was part. He was year 11, and in year 12 he was the captain, and clearly, obviously, just such a precocious young talent, just amazingly physically gifted, talented athlete and footballer, which we're all seeing now, I think, at AFL level. But he was so driven, to the point, almost driven to a fault. And 90% of it I really loved about him, because sometimes young players with that much talent, they don't match it with that much desire and drive to succeed. But I think the thing that you're talking about that was mentioned, I remember after one game, he was our captain, as I said, and our best player, and we'd lost the game. And he hadn't played his best game for the year. He's probably still the team's best player, but he hadn't played his best game. And it's probably a little insight as to what he's taking on now, and it's really sad to read that about him. And hopefully this can really be the making of him. But I remember walking to the car to finish up. We had usually have a little post game with the other team, and then walking to the car with my brother. And the sun's starting to go down, 5:15, and we look over, and in the distance is someone getting stripped back into his gear. And we sort of walk over to see who it was, and sure enough it was Bailey. And mate, what are you doing? And this is, everyone's got back into their school gear and ready to go home. Well, he'd sent his parents home, and he wanted to run some 300s or some 150s just to make himself, or just to sort of almost purge the fact that he didn't feel like he played a good enough game and the team had lost and all that sort of stuff. And it was, a real insight as to where his mindset was. He was so set on playing AFL footy. And as I said, there were elements of it that I loved, but I remember sitting him down, having a chat to him about it, and his mind that if he didn't do that, the opportunity would move a step away, and it was just as I said, a little insight as to how he thought about things back then, and clearly he's still struggling with some of that stuff now. But I think for one thing, I think doing what he did this week, fronting up, owning it, couldn't have handled that any better publicly. Now he needs to go away privately, and I'm sure and hoping that the club will throw as much support around him as they can. I'm here for him as well. I had a little bit to do with him at that time, so I know he's got great family and other support as well. And as I said, hopefully this can be the making of him long term, because he's still so young. He's only 21. He's got so much good footy left in front of him.
Absolutely. Thanks for the insight. Luke Ball with us on Grandstand AFL alongside Brent Harvey, Matt Clinch and Corbin Middlemass calling the footy. Andrew Mays on the boundary. The players are in position. The umpire in Hayden Cavine has the yellow Sharon in the middle of the G. The second half is upon us. It's Melbourne by 8 points on Grandstand AFL. You're with Matt Clinch.
Matt Gawn starting in the middle against Darcy Cameron. Oliver alongside Degoe. Gawn wins down the tap straight to Degoe. Kicks inside 50. And Lever takes the mark for Melbourne. Another intercept mark as it goes short to Salem. Has it at left half back. Melbourne leading by 8 points. Works it up the members' wing. Christian Petrarca takes the mark. Has Neil Bullen short. It's a half volley to him. Noble over the top, taps it to Ginnivan. Out past to Hoskin. Elliott tackled by Jordan. Dropped the footy onto his boot. Spills out to Petrarca. Out past to Oliver. Got it to Salem. Kicks up to Mitch Brown. He marks on his chest at left half forward. Has Ben Brown on the lead. Ignores that. Fritsch as well. Goes shorter still. Petrarca just 15. As Ginnivan stands on the mark off balance as Petrarca swings onto his right, kicks to Max Gord, up, got fingers hip to it, couldn't come down with a footy. Then Noble tried to charge his way through, hand pass straight to Viney, snaps on goal and he's got it. Jack Viney with the opening goal the second half through just a minute, and Melbourne are able to pounce to extend their lead out to 14 points, 6-8-40 to the Pies 3-8-26. It's a fine line between taking the game on and coughing up a disposal.
Yeah, there certainly is. Well, Melbourne didn't do nothing special then except for pressure when they didn't have the football. So we talk about the defence part of it. We haven't really spoken about that much today because we're concentrating on the ball movement through the middle of the ground for both teams. But it wasn't pretty. Petrarca missed the ball to Neil Bullen here. They still got the ball forward, and at the back of that, the pressure came. Forward 50 pressure's big in today's football, Bally, and they certainly capitalised. It was a great finish by Jack Viney. Great finish, but that all happened on the back of some good tackling.
Yeah, great finish. He's having a really good game, Viney, up to 17 possessions and a goal, and just his work rate when he doesn't have the footy is so good. It's twice in that the Pies had the footy in their hands and invited the pressure and chose the wrong option, and you can't do that against a good team like this.
Back to 14 points. Gone in the middle, straight down the throat of Petrarca. Gets it to Viney. Shoots a hand pass out to the wing for Langdon. Kicks inside 50. Fritsch climbs. Can't complete the mark. Front and centre is Pickett. Great work, Moore. Grabs it off his knees. Hand pass to Maynard. Out to Murphy. Kicks out of the defensive 50 for Collingwood. Out to meet it. Oliver took on the tackler and Jack Crispin caught holding the ball.
It's the first time we've seen that happen today, Boom, isn't it?
About to say we get the match-up Crispin Oliver, who have let each other go. They've gone with the ski rope today. Oliver on 28 touches and Crisp now up to 20.
Crisp up towards Henry. Great mark and bounds away. Veers out to the right. Kicks inside 50. Elliott the target. Bounces in front of him. Corralled by Hibbert. Gets the hand pass to Adams. Kicks towards Myercheck. Wrestling with Petty. Petty punches it down. Straight to Lipinski. Snaps on goal. And misses to the left-hand side.
I love the way Henry goes about it. He flies for his marks, which is what we want to encourage him to do, but hits the ground, turns, and gets the ball into one-on-ones. Really, he plays with a lot of energy. Really, really good to watch.
Maisie?
Bruce foot for Max Gawn. He had it strapped at half-time. I wouldn't say he's moving at 100%, so one to watch throughout this second half.
Andrew Mays on the boundary for us today. Floodlights starting to take over. It's dark and cold in Melbourne as the kick from Salem out of the goal square to centre-half back. Ben Brown spills the mark. Falls down to Neil Bullen. Scoops a hand pass to Jordan, away to Viney. Now Brayshaw all by hand up the wing. Now to Jordan. Sweeps it further afield to Mitch Brown. Hooks a kick across the body. It bounces out of play between wing and half forward. And enough hang time and enough convincing of the umpire to give him the benefit of the doubt. So we'll have a boundary throw in here. 70 out for the Melbourne goal. D's by 13 points. They've kicked the only goal so far through 4 minutes in the third term.
6-4 to Collingwood's 3-9 from the throw-in. Petrarca got it down to Salem. Hand pass to Oliver, another disposal. High kick inside 50. Have a fly at that. Mitch Brown has two against him. Maynard punches it down. Fritsch onto it hard against the boundary. Linked up with Harms. Now Murphy over the footy. He's pretty keen to see it out. Harms almost trying to springboard over the top of a couple of opponents as the ball goes out of play.
Pretty sure Bailey Fritsch grew up a hardcore Collingwood fan. Did it feel weird playing against the team you barracked for as a kid?
No, not at all.
No problems?
No.
Toss back into play. Ben Brown sets himself in front of Cameron, tries to take it out of the right. Dispossessed, regathers, tackle. Crisp over the top of the footy now. Viney tries to burrow his way through. Crisp has another go at it for Collingwood. Hand pass to Pendlebury. Third go for Crisp. Dragged off it. Hoskin Elliott feeds the hand pass out to Maynard. To Quaynor under pressure. Hand pass to Pendlebury. Wobbly kick out of defence. Well set. Great mark taken by Turner. In his debut. First Melbourne Queen's birthday debut since Jack Watts.
He's got a bit of Jake Lever about him the way he moves, doesn't he? Not the hair, but everything other than that. The bandy legs. It's been okay, Turner.
Turner's kick is picked off by Maynard. He takes the mark in the right back pocket for Collingwood.
Maynard to Moore, top of the defensive goal square, trying to switch play out to the southern side. Murphy the target, dropping back. Fritsch got a hand on it. Spills to Howe under pressure. His handball picked off. Here's Harms into the forward pocket. Bouncing kick from Fritsch to Petrarca, who had it in the goal square and spilt it. He made a meal of it, couldn't trap the footy, and it bounces through for a rush behind. Melbourne by 14 points, and Maynard hurriedly takes the kick out.
Yeah, Jordan's pretty keen to see it out of play. He was taken high in the process, though, against Hoskin Elliott. So Melbourne will get another chance inside 50. You know the tempo's hot if Christian Petrarca's fumbling the footy. Jordan looks inside 50. Cameron set himself. Ben Brown in from the side. Had two grabs at it. Just couldn't hang on to it. Quaynor's hand pass towards Hoskins in the back pocket. Feeds it to Quaynor. Breaks the tackle. Cosy Pickett downed him as he got the kick away.
Yeah.
And it will be a downfield free kick. Mason Cox keen to take it. Jake Lever, the long, loose defender for Melbourne. So goes shorter still, and Jamie Elliott takes the mark.
Yeah, they've got two back, so he's just going to have to hold it up, which won't hurt the Pies. The D's have started this quarter a lot better. Just need to try and absorb some of the momentum here.
Nick Dacos on from the bench, so Elliott gives it to him, shares it with brother Josh. He's worked it to right half forward.
Still about 70 out, crowded forward 50. Dacos kicks the Mychek direction. Mychek's got it. He was third in the queue. And in front, Hibberd was convinced it came off his fingertips. The umpire's not buying that. And now Brody Mychek can shoot pressed up against the boundary line right half forward.
A little nudge in the back there too, I think. Umpire was in pretty good position. Not sure why. Double-handed. Is that still a rule, Bally? They double-hand push? Surely.
Let's have a look at the replay here, Boo. Yeah, not just disguised it enough. He's pretty good at doing that sort of thing, I think.
Mychek drop punt goes straight across the face, and in the end misses the whole set. Out of bounds on the full in the opposite pocket. Melbourne by 14 points, 7 played third quarter.
It's certainly not one of the rules that's enforced as much as some of the others. The double hand in the middle of the bat. It was one of the hot rules once upon a time. Here's Angus Brayshaw. Couple of bounces out of defence, up to the wing. Fritsch was unable to take the mark, but he was impeded in the back. And we'll take the mark centre of the Shane Warne stand. He looks inboard, kicks over the head of Harms. Salem's there, slides in, takes the mark, works it forward to Neil Bullen. Just 15 as Pendlebury was there with him. Melbourne have it between wing and half forward. Had three options in the middle of the ground. Goes back to Fritsch at right half forward. Still two kicks out from goal. Veers out to the left, laser kick inside 50. Darcy Moore takes the intercepting mark for Collingwood. Kicked it straight into Cosy Pickett. Turns on his left and snaps a goal. With the two fingers in the air, Cosy's able to strike. And Darcy Moore's left to put his head in his hands. Just never saw him there. And Melbourne once more back to their best. Able to punish the Collingwood turnovers. And the Demons are out by 20 points. They got out by 22 points during the second term. As the biggest lead of the match, 7-5-47 to Collingwood 3-9-27. 8 minutes gone, third term.
Bully, we've seen that a couple of times. Mychek misses that goal. Melbourne take the ball full length of the ground and score again. Again, that's twice it's happened today. It's 12 points each time. It's 24 points.
Yeah, he's a super player, Darcy Moore. We love what he does. He's just got a bit of a bad habit of rolling on and playing on deep in defence instead of recognising the state of the game and going back and just taking a bit of the sting out of it. Now, you could argue then, was Pickett in the protected zone before he played on? Not sure, but just so costly, isn't it?
At the 20 points again, Melbourne's way. Adams on the bottom of the pack after the restart. Umpire circles, Oliver's wrestling with it. Gee, lets them go a long time and eventually calls for a secondary ball up.
The next 10 minutes, Bully, for me is the most important part of this game because this is what Melbourne do. They get 20 points up, you look at the scoreboard and you're 45 down.
Yep. Jackson down to Petrarca, surge kick to centre half forward. Murphy's going to take the mark. Gee, he went to spoil it, bounced off the top of his chest and in the end took the return catch over his shoulder. Gives it to Nick Dacos, kicks hurriedly to the big man Cameron. He marks, plays on, hand pass to Adams, pokes it inside 50, just out of stretch of big Mason Cox. Salem knocks it away to Lever, runs into a dead end. He's drilled in a tackle from McCreary. Ping holding the ball. Free kick for Collingwood. Gee, just had a step. The ball fell the way of Lever, bent down to collect it, and McCreary tackled him front on. And the umpire said, it's enough of an opportunity.
Yeah, again, they do it the hard way. He's called a little fender. I don't mind it. Yeah, he's a beauty, this guy, McCreary. He's what he brings to the team. As we said earlier, he doesn't have to have a heap of the footy to really impact the game, but I feel like he's certainly doing that today. Making hard work of it again. It should have been a nice, easy layup kick to Mason Cox, but it's in the hands of young McCreary.
McCreary on the set shot.
There it is.
Stops it. They're doing it the hard way, the Pies, but they won't go away. 11 minutes into the third term. Again, the gap closes to 14. Melbourne 7-5-47. Collingwood 4-9-33. 11 played third term. Boomer Harvey and Luke Ball on Grandstand AFL.
And that's the one they needed. I just spoke about the next 10 minutes because Melbourne make it a grind for everybody. They get 20 up, they kick the next, they kick the next, they kick the next, and before you know it, the game's over and done with. That was a super important goal. Started back here. It was a great mark. It was a great mark by, who marked that? It was young Nathan Murphy, I think it was.
Yeah. And then Dacos' kick inside, wasn't it?
Yep.
Again, a bit of high risk, high reward, and came off. That when they've been able to chain or transition the ball like that through the corridor, Collingwood, they've looked really likely to score every time.
So Melbourne keep the opening 2 goals of the third term. But Collingwood's goal cuts it back to 14 points. Gorn into the ruck against Cox. Gorn slipped over. Cox wins down the tap. Oliver with his head over the footy. Was he taken high by Crisp? Rode the tackle. Now Adams got it to Lipinski. Back to Crisp. Hand pass to Mason Cox. Maybe on the run. Big Mason. The least likely of his opportunities. I think there was a moment there for Crisp where he thought, do I give it to you? And Big Mason didn't let him down. Collingwood string a couple on the trot. And all of a sudden it's back to 8 points. 5-9-39 the Pies to Melbourne 7-5-47. And Mason Cox with his first goal of the afternoon.
Why wouldn't you give it to him, Clinchy? What are you getting at there, mate?
Well, I think when you're 200 centimetres, you just wonder whether it's the right option.
211.
It's all right when you're kicking to a one-on-one, you're putting the ball 50 metres away from you, but when you're running into goal and someone presses, you think, is he the right man to give it to? Well, he certainly was. He finished really well. He needed that because he's kicked a couple of behinds today, Bawley, so that's that confidence booster. I reckon he's a confidence player. He's the one that can run and launch at the football and make a difference here today. It's game back on. Fantastic by the Pies.
And the packed crowd here at the MCG awake to it. Back in the middle, Jackson down to Viney. Hand pass back to Jackson. He sets up Oliver. Oliver can kick out of the centre square to the top of the goal square. Darcy Moore leads Mitch Brown to the footy and outmarks him in the defensive 50 for the Magpies. Hand pass to Nick Dacos. He's off and running and kicks out further wide to Maynard. Up against the boundary line, southern side. Long kick down the wing. Bounces off the chest of Brayshaw and he's out of play. Trying to regather. Southern wing, right on halfway. D's by 8 points. Andrew Mays on the boundary.
Yeah, Max Gawn came off just a moment ago, had a quick chat to the physio straight down the rooms to get that foot looked at again.
Jackson in the ruck against Cox, took it out of the ruck, stripped of it by Adams, got it to Chris, to Cox, who kicks it straight to Angus Brayshaw. He marks down low at right half back for the Demons. All of a sudden, Melbourne's lead is just 8 points. As Brayshaw looks into the middle of the ground, no options present, so kicks wide around the southern wing. Nice pass, finds Sparrow. Under the Shane Warne stand. He looks for options at half forward. He's got Bailey Fritsch on the 50. Mitch Brown deeper than that. Sends it in the direction of Mitch Brown. Mason Cox in from the side. All of a sudden his confidence is rising. As big as Texas as he marks at half back.
He looks inside the defensive 50. Hits up Darcy Moore.
Get too confident, Mason.
Had to race out after it. Got to him eventually. Short kick to Nick Dacos. Comes out the northern side. Quaynor marks at half back. Up against the boundary line. Quaynor tries to measure it to Hoskin Elliott. Can't reel it in. Follows up at ground level. Tumbles a kick up into the front half.
Well
Turner attacks it. Knocks it in front of him. Spills to Elliott of the Magpies. Hand pass inside to Lipinski. Tackled, dispossessed by Neil Bullen. Here's Viney. Gave it to Jordan when he wasn't looking. Jordan butters up. Gives it to Lever. Sweeping hand pass forwards a turnover. Lipinski to Nick Dacos. He coughs it up too. No more than 2 possessions in a row at the moment. Harms kicks inside 50. Murphy for the Magpies. Got it to Nick Dacos and away to Howe at centre half back.
Way through the middle.
Had to tap it to his own advantage, but then past Lipinski. Has to squeeze a kick towards half forward. Brayshaw's there. He's the wall for Collingwood. And the helmeted Warrior takes the mark at halfback. Comes inboard to Lever. Everyone just needing a breather as Jake Lever drives Melbourne into attack. It's over the head of Neale Bullen. And Murphy takes the mark.
A young Disco might have had the lights turned out down here.
Yep, we'll get to Maisie in a moment. Out to Hoskin Elliott at right halfback. Up towards Ginnivan. Petty spoiled his teammate in Bowie. A chance for Elliott. Works it to Cameron. Back to Elliott. Dodging and weaving. Brayshaw. Great lunging tackle. Pulled him off his kick. His kick towards the pocket is seen out of play by Hibbert. Ginnivan wanted it deliberate. He won't get it. And a boundary throw in. Andrew Mays on the boundary.
Turner involved in a big collision. Side on, fair bump from Jamie Elliott, but he's just sitting on the boundary at the moment, having a bit of a chat to the doctors. Initially it was his side, now he's pointing to his head as well.
I reckon he hit his head on the ground, so they might have to have a look at that.
Yep.
Melbourne by 8 points at the boundary throw in. Hand pass from Hoskin Elliott away to Elliott. Kicks to centre half forward. Neale Bullen got a shove. Free kick against McCreary. Melbourne ball centre half back. Short kick to Petty.
His game's open right up, hasn't it, Boom? Both teams' defences are all at sea. It's a big ground at the moment. There's players everywhere.
Short to Neale Bullen. He comes out wide for Brayshaw, who marks in front of the interchange.
He's a good player, this bloke. Just rock solid.
Up to 16 disposals now.
Short to Harms, so problems for Turner and Gorn on the Melbourne bench. Two fit rotations at the moment. Neither side have used their sub. As Harms trying to pick off his kick to Neale Bullen. There's going to be a free again. Gee, it's against Noble. There wasn't a lot in that, leaping up the spoil on Neale Bullen.
It wasn't a lot.
Howler.
It was nothing.
Fans filthy. Kick from Neale Bullen to the top of the goal square. Cox is back. Takes the intercept mark. Mason Cox, last line of defence for Collingwood.
Oh, he kicks it over the top to Lipinski. It hung in the air a little while, but he's able to take the mark in front of Neale Bullen. Out to the members wing. Mychek trying to pull in the one-handed mark against Petrarca. So well off balance, Petrarca. Gathers, back pedals. Hand pass to Brayshaw. Kicks to Viney. Links up again with Petrarca. Kept running. Hoskin Elliott with a shove as he kicks inside 50. Picketing from the side, but it's Mason Cox again.
Just need some composure here, yeah. I know the adrenaline's pumping. Ooh.
Kicks to McCreary. He turns, realises it's intended for him. He takes the mark.
Lovely leg by the big fella.
He's had 11 disposals, Mason Cox. This is McCreary who turns it over. And Brayshaw takes the intercept mark, pulls the trigger into the corridor. Neale Bullen lets it bounce. Clever taps it away from Josh Dacos. Favours Bowie. Melbourne keep the footy. Kicks out wide to Mitch Brown, who marks it right half forward. 70 out. Short kick to Langdon. Still in that launch pad. Melbourne by 8 points. 18 played third term. Langdon's just going to have to lay it up into the pocket. Ben Brown races after it. Spills to Cozzy against the boundary line. He shoots goal and he's missed everything.
Outstanding pressure here by both teams.
Darcy Moore with the chase down tackle affecting the kick. So Collingwood free next to the behind post. Melbourne by 8 points. Approaching time on in the third. Sorry, Bernard.
The dial has just been turned up the last 4 or 5 minutes. It's been fantastic to watch. Great viewing.
Pendlebury brings Collingwood back into play, and Nick Dacos, 3 bounces as he bounds out of defence. Hand pass to Quaynor at right half back. Drives it towards Mychek in front. Penny, great mark. He has landed really awkwardly there. I think his head might have hit the ground as he was dragged down by Mychek unintentionally. Andrew Mays.
He's either landed on the turf or on the knee of Brodie Mychek. He's still getting to his feet and he's a little proppy. I'm surprised Brayshaw didn't ask for the handball around the back there. Instead he's kicked to him.
And he wants to stay out there, but I'm sure the doctor's going to want him to come off for a quick check. Short to Brayshaw, who's having a lot of the footy in this third term. Session number 7 or 8 coming up as he goes short to Harms. Left half forward for the Demons. Collingwood with the last 2 goals of the match. Harms veers out to the right, sends him inside 50 once more. Jackson makes body contact with Cox, but it's Murphy this time, who flies in and takes another intercept mark for Collingwood.
These Melbourne forwards just got to be able to get the ball to ground. There's way too many intercept marks being taken in the back 50 for Collingwood.
Noble's off and running. Half back for Collingwood. 1-2 hand pass with Nick Dacos. So Noble in the yellow boots kicks down the southern wing. Ginnivan dropping in the hole. Brayshaw spoils down into the part to Salem. Hand pass to Hibbert. Handball away to Viney. Slips over. Runs around Henry. Runs around Lipinski. Gives it to Hibbert. Hand pass to Sparrow. They work their way through the D's. Back to Viney and a horrid kick just jams it on the boot and turns it over. Nick Dacos kicks into the middle of the ground for Lipinski. His hand pass picked off as well. Neil Bullen spun around and dispossessed. That'll be holding the ball. Advantage applied and the Magpies away through the middle. Collingwood on the counter-attack. Here's to go. He kicks inside 50. Brodie. Mychek can't complete the mark. Spills to Cox. Hand pass to Elliott. Goal coming up. Elliott puts it through and Collingwood's within a kick. The Pies lifting the tempo as the game's gone up a notch. 21 played third term. Melbourne's lead cut to 2. 7-5-47. Collingwood 6-9-45.
Well, big Mason Cox here.
He's everywhere.
I know he played a great... Was it the prelim a couple of years ago, a few years back against the Tigers, where he absolutely took it apart.
It's the best game since then.
This has been absolutely outstanding by the big fella. He was involved again. Just the awareness to get the ball out the back to Elliott. But for me, De Goey in the middle of the ground, give the ball to the guys that are going to set stuff up. His ball went in there, and that's great play. You know what they're doing? They're setting up very well behind the ball here, Bally. Every time Melbourne kick the ball in under pressure, they're marking it and resetting and going
it's
again.
It's been Nick Dacos a lot of the time. He's at 10 for the quarter. Nick Dacos. It's been Brayshaw at one end. The game was going up and back, up and back. A lot of hands on these, Boom, and players are absolutely gassed because it's been such a high tempo up and back. It's the first goal for a long time this quarter, so players will be looking for that three-quarter time siren.
Luke Ball and Brent Harvey with you on ABC Sport. Cameron wins down the tap. Got it to De Goey. Hand pass to Pendlebury. He kicks a wobbly kick inside 50 and Brayshaw takes the mark.
Not a great kick by
the poor kick, wasn't it, from the skip. Yeah, just had to get some more depth on that.
I think he tried to kick a torpedo and end up being a mongrel punt, but the drop punt would have been a better option.
It's rare. Does Scott Pendlebury have a day where you question his disposals, but in his 17th season, even he's felt the pressure.
Angus Brayshaw, what a quarter he's had. He's had 10 possessions, 7 marks across half-back, 7 intercept marks.
Brayshaw to Salem, to Jordan, and now to Petrarca. Kicks up to Viney. Middle of the members' wing. Melbourne by 2 points.
He's had a good day, Jack Viney, in his 7th Queen's birthday game. Down to half forward, and Ben Brown arriving to take the mark at left half forward, and immediately goes on a bit of a jog back to start the long approach.
Well, that breaks a chain of 6 or 7 intercept marks in the back 50 for Melbourne. I was screaming at those forwards. They just had this Max Gawn comes onto the ground now, so they get some more aerial presence. But they've really been dominated this quarter in the air in their forward 50. Melbourne, Ben Brown, a timely mark. He'll take his best.
Comes on for Petty, goes straight down the race. So still only 2 fit bodies on the bench for Melbourne. Ben Brown, the long set shot approach, looking for extra distance. He tugs it to the left. Melbourne by 3. 7-6 to 6-9. Collingwood have kicked the last 3 in the game.
He's been off the ground for a while. Max Gawn. As De Goey barrels a kick from half back to half forward. It clears here, but Brayshaw once more has to try and clean it up for Melbourne, and he does just that. Out to Jordan, who marks it left half back.
Well, Ollie Henry's almost got to go and play on Angus Brayshaw now.
Yep.
He is just absolutely teaching the young fellow a lesson this quarter.
Collingwood with 3 goals to 2 in this third term. Howe tried to have a flight at from the back, but Darcy Cameron in the end was able to take the mark over Ben Brown. Melbourne by 3 points.
15 scoring shots to 13 Collingwood's way, but Melbourne lead the game by 3. Cameron down the line and Josh Dacos takes the mark. On the members' wing. Every player in this quarter of the ground. There's Dacos. Just lays it up with a hot spot. Lever flies for it, can't complete the mark, slips out the back. Heavy tackle on De Goey, taken down by Brayshaw, and the umpire says ball up. Top of the goal square for the Magpies.
Just try and lock it into your front half for a couple of minutes here, give your defenders a rest. They've been working hard this quarter, the Pies.
Mychek doing the ruck work against Gawn. Gawn taps it down. Salem pinches it. Hand pass to Oliver. Cuts through a tackle. Kicks towards Ben Brown. Up goes Howe. Taps it down. Brown back onto it. Hand pass to Fridge. At left half back for the Demons. Turns and kicks towards Petrarca. He marks just in front of the bench. Melbourne do that so well. Now he might have been out of play or touched.
Yeah, I think they called touched off the boot. So, and he ran out of bounds, so they have to throw it in. But little halting play. Petrarca's lifted 2. He's up to 9 for the quarter. All the good players coming into the game, Boomer.
They certainly are. Brayshaw's actually, Lipinski's gone back now to make Brayshaw a little bit accountable because he was free for the last 6 or 7 minutes.
So Petty and Turner both off, and Gorn has battled his way through this third quarter. Josh Dacos gets the clearance for Collingwood. Hand pass to Noble, kicks towards Henry, almost pulled in the one-handed mark. Lever got a touch onto it. Henry back onto it for Collingwood. Turns on his right, kicks inside 50, over Myercheck and Elliott. Brayshaw races back for Melbourne. Bit of a fumble, rushes it back. Was it outside the goal square? No. Umpire says he was under enough pressure, which is the right call.
Yeah. I think Elliott might have got a hand on it because he was just outside.
He was just outside by about half a metre there, I reckon.
Hibbert on the kick out, long to Ben Brown, who's up to meet it, can't complete the mark. Cameron dumps it back inside 50. On to Brayshaw's chest. What a quarter he's had in his third term.
Extraordinary quarter.
And he goes wide to Salem. Salem short to Harm. So Brayshaw up to 13 disposals, 7 intercept possessions,
8 marks.
Well, he's really the reason why Collingwood aren't going to turn in front here.
Short to Salem, back to Jordan. Jordan kicks down the wing. Ben Brown pulls it down, but Crisp is there for Collingwood. Hand pass to Adams, through traffic to Pendlebury, runs into Viney, kicks it away, but straight to Oliver, who just dumps a kick forward, and again a turnover going up forward. And Darcy Moore takes the intercept mark. Half back for Collingwood. It's Melbourne by a couple of points. 27 played, third term.
Ball goes short to Quaynor, who marks in front of the Collingwood bench. No one on the mark, so plays on, sends it long towards the 50. Elliott's there. Myercheck in from the side, takes the mark. Right on 50.
Yeah, he's too far out here. It's going to be tough to see if he can find a mark, spot a mark. There's a look around at the bench. They'll be yelling at him 30 seconds, so has to think his way through it here.
Sees the big one being held up on the bench, so under a minute to go, and probably now under that.
Darcy Cameron standing about. Yeah, he's got to get back and equalise now. Max Gawn's down there by himself.
Brodie Myercheck out to the right, 55 metres out, puts it towards the teeth of goal. Cameron up, almost had a second bite at it. Gawn slaps it down, Crisp over the footy, Sparrow over him. Jackson tries to knock it clear. Adams gathers as the siren sounds to three-quarter time. He turns and snaps in frustration, but it was after the siren had sounded for three-quarter time. Melbourne lead by 2 points, 7-6-48 to Collingwood 6-10-46. The Demons got out by 20 points in the third term with the opening 2 goals of the quarter. But Collingwood finished with the next 3 to close it to a one-kick ball game heading into the final term. For the Demons, a couple of goals to Ben Brown, individuals to Viney, Oliver, Jordan, Fritsch and Pickett. Meanwhile for the Pies, 2 to Brodie Myercheck, individuals to Elliott, McCreery, Ginnivan and Cox.
On ABC Radio, ABC News Radio and Sport Digital, this is Grandstand AFL.
ABC Sport now has its very own newsletter, and we'd be pumped to have you on board.
The ABC of Sport will provide a wrap of all the best stuff that's happening in sport every week.
Simply go to abc.net.au/connect
and get ready for a sport hit in your inbox every Friday.
Get on board with the ABC of Sport newsletter.
For content that makes you think.
Or allows you not to.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season. Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Kicks to Max Gawn up, got fingers into it. Couldn't come down with a footy. Then Noble trying to charge his way through. Hand pass straight to Viney. Snaps on goal and he's got it. Jack Viney with the opening goal the second half through just a minute. Beers out to the left. Laser kick inside 50. Darcy Moore takes the intercepting mark for Collingwood. Kicked it straight into Cozzy Pickett. Turns on his left and snaps the goal. With the 2 fingers in the air, Cozzy's able to strike. Darcy Moore's left to put his head in his hands. And the Demons are out by 20 points.
Salem knocks it away to Lever. Runs into a dead end. He's drilled in the tackle from McCreery. King holding the ball. Free kick for Collingwood. McCreery on the set shot.
There it is.
Thompson. They're doing it the hard way, the Pies, but they won't go away.
Now Adams got it to Lipinski. Back to Chris. Hand pass to Mason Cox. Maybe on the run. Big Mason. Collingwood string a couple on the trot.
He's to go. He kicks inside 50. Brodie Myercheck can't complete the mark. Spills to Cox. Hand pass to Elliott. Goal coming up. Elliott puts it through, and Collingwood's within a kick.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Momentum with Collingwood. They've had more scoring shots and really in general play they've dominated large periods of the day, and yet Melbourne have almost led start to finish. At three-quarter time, it's the Demons by 2 points. The thoughts of Luke Ball and Brent Harvey in just a moment, but first, they're pretty banged up on Melbourne's bench. Andrew Mays, what can you see?
Yeah, Max Gawn going over and having a chat with the coaching staff at the moment. He's put his hand up as right to go in this final term. Turner was the other one who went down in that quarter, still under the concussion test. And Harrison Petty is out there. He also had the concussion test, so we'll have to wait for their results. Turner now just emerging from the rooms. It looks like he might have been given the tick because he's still got the kit on and he's going out to the huddle. So I'll keep you updated on that. But just from first observations, it looks like he might be okay.
Thanks, Maisie. Kate Chandler's also out there in number 37, the Medi sub, so we'll keep a close eye on that. And in fact, just after Maisie mentioned Turner was on the way out, he's been turned around. So Turner's been told to head to the bench. The sub's been made. Kate Chandler into the game for Melbourne. Luke Ball and Boomer Harvey at three-quarter time.
Just on this rule, I reckon if the opposition gets to use their sub, you should activate yours straight away. That should be a rule, because now there's a slight advantage with a fresh player. I know we don't want to see anyone get concussed or injured or anything like that, but right now they activate theirs. Rightio, we've got an option. Do we want to activate ours or not? And that's just the way I think it should happen. There was a 10-minute period there where I said the next 10 minutes is super critical. Melbourne kicked the first 2 goals of that quarter, and they got out to about 20 points. That next 10 minutes, the Pies kicked the next 3 goals, Ball, and I thought they were fantastic. More down back, and there was a 6 or 7 minute period where big Mason Cox took about 4 clunks in the back 50. The crowd was behind him. He got his confidence up, and everything happened from there. Young Nick Dacos, who we just spoke about off air then, he's got some composure for a young boy. He was sweeping up there. Up the other end, the ball goes up the other end. The ball didn't enter 50 very well. Brayshaw was the man for the Melbourne Football Club. He swept everything up. He had 8
intercept marks.
Yeah, the 13 possessions for the quarter. He was fantastic, and you're right. I think you said that if it wasn't for Brayshaw, it would have been a different ball game. So he was fantastic. But I thought the Pies played super well in that 10-minute period and got the game back on their terms. And you see Melbourne, they changed slightly. They tried to maintain possession when the Pies kicked those 2 goals. So the Pies are doing a lot right today.
I mean, it's going to be a bit of a battle of attrition now, isn't it? Really, who's got the legs and the composure as this last quarter goes on to be able to execute under fatigue? That's really what it's going to come down to. Both sides, it's been pretty even all day, hasn't it? Both sides have certainly had their moments where they've been on top, and to this point, you'd say that Collingwood haven't taken some of those opportunities. Will that come back to bite them? They're going to come this quarter, you think? I mean, centre bounce has become critical throughout the quarter. But, really, who's going to be able to take a deep breath when they have the footy in their hand? I mentioned a couple of times, I thought, certainly Collingwood down there, and as they took the intercept mark, rather than play on blindly, it pays sometimes to be aggressive and try and break the game up like that. But recognise the times where you need to take a deep breath and go back and just maintain possession and execute. So it's been a really entertaining game. There's no doubt about it. Both sides couldn't question their effort. The tackling's been high. The pressure's been high. It's forced a lot of mistakes, and really it's probably going to come down to that in this last quarter, as I said. Who's going to make fewer mistakes as fatigue kicks in?
Melbourne have given up just 1 3/4 time lead all season. It was last week against Sydney. The week before that, they were goalless in the final quarter against Fremantle. While Collingwood, their last 2 weeks, they've won both by less than a kick. A 4-point victory over Carlton, followed by a 4-point win over Hawthorn. So just repeating, that sub has been made. Daniel Turner, unfortunately, the 20-year-old on debut, has been subbed out with suspected concussion, and Cade Chandler is into the game. Final quarter action. Melbourne by 2 points. Away we go into quarter number 4. As Cameron wins the hit out the middle for Collingwood, immediately jumps on the footy as it comes back to him, and he's locked up by Jackson alongside the centre circles.
I'll find out a bit about Melbourne here, Boom. Staring down the barrel of 3 in a row. What have they got, the reigning champs?
Cameron grabs it out of the ruck, sweeping hand pass, and Crisp is onto it. Can put Collingwood inside their forward 50. Jamie Elliott leaping for it. Shares it with Hibbert as it comes to ground. Brayshaw's tackled immediately. And his hand pass ends up out of play and he's pinged for it.
Deliberate.
Free kick for Elliott and the Pies. Up against the fence, right half forward. Pies coming home to the punt right end.
Jack Ginnivan was sniffing around for it, wasn't he? For a free kick.
Just top of the goal square, I'm sure, this one. He can't have a shot from there. He's going to kick from 52 on the fence, or maybe from row 3.
It's the Dom Sheed pocket, sorry to say, Collingwood supporters, but a right footer.
A straight kick will give Collingwood the lead. He misses everything to the near side. Out on the full, Melbourne by 2 points, 60 seconds travelled, final quarter.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 Collingwood players then put their hands up. They wanted the ball at the top of the goal square, give themselves another opportunity.
Now he sends Melbourne long out of defence, puts it up towards Max Gawn, cleared him and Cameron, and Quaynor takes the mark for Collingwood at the back of that pack.
Been good as the game's gone on. Quaynor had a couple of blues early, but just kept working at it.
Reloads inside 50, Mason Cox is there, Lever punches it boundary side. Bowie and Brayshaw combine to see it out of play, and a throw in the right forward pocket for Collingwood. 2-point lead the Demons' way. Got it out beyond 20 points on a couple of occasions. Collingwood have a never die attitude. Throw him back in. Cox to do the ruck work against Jackson. Works his way to the front. Trying to flick it over the back to Adams. Hand pass to go. He can't break the Elliott tackle. Works it back to Chris. To Ginnivan on the left boot. It's a high kick. It won't have the purchase. Cox sets himself. Flies. Can't take it. Hibbert's kick ricochets off the hands of Oliver. He and Sidebottom bounce into each other. Sidebottom careful not to make front-on contact. And did that successfully. A throw up in the left forward pocket for the Pies.
He did that quite well, still Sidebottom, by not rushing in there. Might have been a little bit too high, but he didn't rush in and give that free kick away.
Again, the footy living in Collingwood's front 50. From the ball up, the D's win it at the stoppage. Lever hand pass to Oliver to Bowie. High up and under the half-back. Harms flies in the air, no mark. Spills down to Maynard. He can just kick it long to the top of the goal square for the Magpies. Cox down there. They all compete in the air. Spills down to DeGoey. He's tackled by Lever, taken to ground. Ball up.
Good umpiring.
Forward pocket for Collingwood.
Feel like they just got to pinch one here and get their noses in front of the Pies. Make the most of this dominance.
Jackson palms it down to go. He had it, lost it. Pack forms behind him. Jackson extracts it. Hand pass away to Viney. Comes out of the defensive 50 for Melbourne. Gawn wrestling with Murphy. No mark. Spills down to Maynard. He sockers it into the shins of Jordan. And it ricochets off the Melbourne wingman and out on the full, so free kick Collingwood.
He can go here too. Harms is not right on the mark. Run around him, have a crack.
I think Cossie Pickett is trying to work out whether he's on the mark or not. It's enough to stop Maynard charging into attack. Brad Maynard drives a long kick towards Mason Cox. That can't take the mark. Spoiled down by Mitch Brown. Gathered by Brayshaw to Oliver, hard against the boundary. Jordan kicks to Matt Scorn. This time he protects the space in front and takes the mark on his right shoulder, and Murphy's down slow to rise. Kicks to Petrarca. Hand pass to Jordan around the boundary member's side. Beautiful kick up to Spargo. He can work the hand pass over the top to Pickett. Decides against that. Pushes back behind his mark at right half forward. Pokes a kick over the top. Viney has it. Right half forward for the Demons.
So the D's can head inside 50 at the city end. Short kick to Oliver, still 60 from home. Oliver loads up now and just kicks it to the top of the goal square. Gawn's down there, punched away by Moore. Into the lap of Fritsch, though, the Demons. Hand pass to Neil Bull, and he can snap from 20 out. It hasn't got the trip. In the pocket is Langdon, and Hoskin Elliott getting back, whacks it out of play. Boundary throw in forward pocket, Melbourne.
He's Langdon, haven't called that name much today.
No,
7 possessions.
It's he just plays the other side of the ground the whole day because he doesn't come off, so they can rotate wingman from the bench this side, but no, he hasn't had the impact he normally has.
Only Petty, Turner and Henry have had less disposal on the ground than Ed Langdon from the throw-in. Cox, in fact it was Cameron who was outmanoeuvred by Gawn, and then the tackle holding the footy.
Outstanding tackle.
Great tackle by Quaynor. Really liked his game. Big Maxi hasn't had his day either. Only coming off the game he had last week. Only 10 possessions, but wouldn't back him in to have an impact in this last quarter.
Not an easy feat to bring a ruckman down as Gawn tried to fend off Quaynor. Kicks up towards Hoskin Elliott. His hand pass is wide, looking for Myercheck and out of play for a boundary throw-in.
Low scoring affair, Bully, but fantastic game to date.
Shane in Currans Hill loving the call, painting a fantastic picture of what is going on. Excellent work, lads. Gee, we like those text messages. 0437 774 774 as the Pies hurriedly kick it forward. Lever at the drop, can't mark on the southern wing. Hand pass from Salem to Mitch Brown. He missed Bowie. Bowie under the pump, half back for Melbourne. Regathers. Got it to Mitch Brown. Hand pass goes back to Hibbert. Kicks a high bomb down the southern wing. Viney leaping from the back. Brings it down. Collingwood come up with it. Hoskin Elliott. Hand pass to Pendlebury. Gives it to Adams. He kicks inside 50 and Myercheck dropping to his knees. Takes the mark. Centre half forward. He'll kick from right on 50.
It's in good hands. He's hit him well today. Brody Myercheck, this will take his best. But just forward pressure again, just forcing errors all across the ground, just a chase, getting a hand. It's been a day for that, hasn't it, Boomer? It's real finals-like atmosphere, really, or that finals-like intensity that's required just to chase and get a hand in or get some pressure on and force an error. Well done from Adams. Stood under a high ball and then hit the target inside 50.
He's their leading goal kicker all year. They haven't led since the 10-minute mark. Woo! They're in front now. Collingwood put their nose in front at the 7-minute mark of the final term. 7-10-52. Melbourne 7-6-48. Second lead change of the game.
Bully, you're spot on there. You mentioned everything there. Adams kick inside 50. That's all fantastic, but it doesn't happen if he doesn't sit underneath that high ball. And then the pressure. The pressure was before that, before the high ball. Hibbert got the ball, had to go boundary side. They had about 4 or 5 guys charge in. It was fantastic play by the Pies. Forward pressure. Ball goes out, they get another inside 50. I think they had about maybe 3 or 4 repeat inside 50s there, so fantastic work, and you're right, great finish. He's at his third, I think Myercheck's got his third today, so he's been the most potent forward on the day. He's been fantastic, and you've got to finish your work, which some of the other boys haven't been able to do.
You don't lose centre bounces become important now.
All of a sudden, since quarter time, Collingwood have kicked 7 goals to 4. Back in the middle, Cameron one down the tap, but it's Oliver for Melbourne. Hand pass to Petrarca, kicks out to the members' wing. Jordan corralled by Hoskin Elliott, kicks towards Spargo. Noble slipped in front, but it went through his hands. Running onto it, Sparrow runs to 60, sends it towards the goal mouth. Chandler, the sub, flew, can't take the mark. Moore gathers for Collingwood. Hand pass looking for Nick Dacos. Ben Brown takes it, and he's taken out of play. And the right forward pocket. Andrew Mays on the boundary.
Good news for the D's. Petty spent the first 8 minutes off. He's back on, as is Harms, who caught his breath after that heavy knock earlier.
7-10 to 7-6. Collingwood by 4 points. Boundary throw in deep forward for Melbourne. Cameron grabs it out of the ruck. Tries to exit defensive 50. McCreary hits up for the Pies. Hand pass to Lipinski. Trickles a kick out of the defensive arc. Still no clean possession. Myercheck grabs it. Jackson's got him. And a ball up, 60 out from the D's goal. Corbin Middlemass, Matt Clench, Andrew Mays on the boundary. Our grandstand experts Luke Ball and Brett Harvey. Turning out to be a classic at the MCG on Easter Monday. Sorry, we're not Easter, on Queen's birthday. Jeez, I'm delayed here. The Pies are off. Hoskin Elliott kicks it forward. Myercheck runs past it. McCreary collects, heads to the goal square. Elliott running back with the flight. He had Hibbert for company. And he hugs it to his chest, looking over his shoulder as the Sharon came in.
That's a great kick there. What you have to do, if you want to pop it up and give your teammate a chance, you've still got to hit the goal face. You've got to hit it in case it doesn't go and the ball slides through. Fantastic kick there by McCreary.
Gosh, he's been impressive. I've seen a heap of him live, but
he has.
He's only had the 11 possessions. He has so much more of an impact on the game. His bash and crash, his chase and tackle, his pressure.
The man with the famous number 5 on his back makes it 5 in a row for Collingwood. What have you got, Melbourne? The Pies throw down the challenge to the reigning champs. Collingwood 8-10-58. Melbourne 7-6-48. Pies by 10. 10 played final term. And it is definitely the Queen's birthday. The blockbuster
Queen's
on
birthday.
Grandstand Day.
That's it. Queen's birthday. Yeah, and it's a beauty. And over to you, reigning champs. It's shades of last week, really. They're in a very similar position against the Swans, as you said, Clinchy, leading by a kick at three-quarter time and just got overrun. And you look down at the centre bounce now, and it's Gorn, it's Oliver, and it's Petrarca. They're really the three that have to find a way to get this team back into it. The score is dried up. really hard to see where the goal's going to come by, isn't it? So they really need to get going out of this centre bounce, and it's their big guns that have to carry them back into this game.
Collingwood have got their noses in front. Now they're pulling away. Cox into the ruck against Gorn, wins down the tap. Oliver gets the clearance to Melbourne. Bundles a kick inside 50. Harms back with the flight. Couldn't take the mark. Spills to Noble. Hand pass to Nick Dacos. Good composure back to Noble. Spreads the kick wide and finds Hoskin Elliott. Collingwood's confidence continuing to rise. He kicks to Ginnivan. He takes the mark on the southern wing. Had a couple of shots on goal early. Jack Ginnivan finally struck gold in the second. Kicks towards Mason Cox. Max Gorn reaches over from the back. Can't take the mark. Cameron brought down by Lever. Got the hand pass away to Myercheck. To Lipinski. Back to Cox. Why not? He sends a high ball inside the 50. It's too wide for Ollie Henry and out on the full. Melbourne will take it back in the left back pocket through Hibbert. It's the Pies by 10.
It's a 10-point margin. Collingwood lead it with 10 minutes into the final term, but Melbourne need to dramatically change the course of this game. Pies have kicked the last 5 and have all the momentum. Hibbert goes long to the southern wing. Slips through to Petrarca. Sweeping hand pass into the middle of the ground for Harms. Handball to Sparrow. They're up to halfway. Sparrow runs straight around Maynard. Hand pass to Harms. He fumbles. Front on pressure from Hoskin Elliott. Can't grab the footy. Pies through Maynard. Shoots it back by hand and Nick Dacos. He's coat hangered by Ben Brown.
He's been very impressive, this young man. We just seen a couple of minutes ago, just his kick out to Elliott. Very, very composed young footballer.
He just keeps a level head, doesn't he?
Coming up for his 29th.
Of the situation of the game, absolutely, Boone. Just spent some time over the footy, drew the free kick.
And look at that. There's a kick.
Hits up Hoskin Elliott, who marks on the boundary line.
That Collingwood have to still play the same way, boy. I don't think they can go chip, chip, chip just yet.
No, plenty of time.
You've still got another 6 or 7 minutes before that needs to happen. They've played some exceptional football. Keep attacking.
Drives a long kick towards half forward. We're flying uncontested was Myercheck, who takes the mark from Hoskin Elliott's kick. Looks inside 50. Sends a long ball towards Henry and Cameron. Cameron with a little shove on Lever. Spargo gathers. Hand pass to Bowie. Back to Jordan in the defensive goal square. Under pressure. Squeeze the kick to Salem. He breaks the tackle. Works it to Fritsch, who's now in defence. Every man to the wheel. Works it up to Chandler, the sub. He gets a touch in the final term. Into the action for Turner. Call to play on. Looks inboard. Short to Oliver. Not a bad option. Possession number 38 coming up.
He had a heap, had 28 of them before half-time. He kicks wide to Spargo, who marks against the boundary line.
Pretty well set up behind the ball, the Pies.
Nothing. It's attractive for Spargo, so he hands it away to Jordan, and Jordan from 80 out kicks deep into the pocket. Jackson going up, he reels it in. Juggled mark for Luke Jackson, forward pocket. He missed a shot from a similar spot in the second quarter.
Yeah, Jeremy Howe played a couple of metres in front there, and I don't think you can do that against the taller opposition. He needs to come forward and run and jump at that football. So just his positioning just out by 3 or 4 metres there.
Yeah. He thought he had some cover, didn't he, with Maynard, but it was a nice kick from Spargo. Just carried enough for Jackson to be able to stick up the right Duke. Big kick.
Jackson to make it a thriller.
Oh, he's a beauty.
You bet. Through it goes, and the Demons are back within a straight kick. 14 played, final term. Collingwood 8-10, 58. Melbourne 8-6, 54. Pies by 4 points. Luke Ball and Brent Harvey on ABC Radio and Sport Digital.
Yeah, he's a beauty, isn't he? And it's been him today. It was Gorn, we know, last week, but he's been a bit off today, the big skipper, and Jackson's stepped up to the plate. That was possession number 16. We've just watched him really use his athleticism at times across the game. Boomer, you mentioned him spreading out to the wing for the exit kick, pushing forward hard, pushing back. And that time, I don't know whether he was actually playing in the ruck or it looks like he's forward now, but he was able to just drift into a dangerous spot inside 50, and that's a tough kick. Halfway through the last quarter, plenty of jelly in the legs to go back and slot that under pressure. So the rising star delivers for the D's.
Luke Ball with you on ABC Sport. Back in the middle, Cox up against Gorn. Gorn got it down to Sparrow. Hand pass to Viney. Links up with Oliver. Quickly back to Sparrow to a stationary Gorn. Taylor Adams gets in the middle for Collingwood. Hand pass down low for Nick Dacos. He tries to knock it on, but in the end the footy's locked underneath him. And the umpire will throw it up slightly Melbourne's way from the centre circles. The Pies have played in 2 thrillers the last 2 weeks. 4-point wins over Hawthorn and Carlton. They could be set for another one here. Cox just sops it off the ground inside the centre square. Salem gathers for Melbourne. Hand pass to Langdon. 1-2 with Petty. Had a quiet afternoon as he works the kick up to Viney. He continues to play on, not 15. Has to squeeze the kick towards half forward. Collingwood are well set. And Chris takes the intercepting mark for the Pies.
Pies by 4, 16-minute mark, final term. Short kick to Lipinski. Lipinski heads out wide, southern boundary line and side bottom marks. Short kick to Pendlebury. Between wing and half forward. Dishes off a hand pass to Noble. 55 out. Kicks into oncoming traffic. Ricochets off Petty. Here's Jordan for the Melbourne. Hand pass to Petty. Gives it off to Langdon. Sweeping hand pass to half back for Neil Bullen. Away to Sparrow. Loose hand pass. Got it to Oliver. Sparrow was dumped. And advantage applied. The Demons away through the middle. Keziah Pickett hits up Fritsch, who marks alongside the centre circle. Ben Brown about to take off, flattening his arms at half forward. Kick goes in his direction. Howe arrives late, spoils it down to Chris for the Pies.
Kicks out to Lipinski and all of a sudden the Pies are on. Elliott charging towards half forward. He's got 5 metres on Jordan, dropped the mark. He needed every metre of it. Turns and kicks into the pocket. Myercheck caught behind and Petty takes the mark. All of a sudden, some of these big moments becoming so important.
Yeah, every possession, isn't it? It's... And again, this is when fatigue kicks in, those with the cool heads, experienced heads, to be able to execute under pressure, worth their weight in gold.
Petty to Gorn, who just casually pulls his kick back to the left back pocket. Now the mark is taken by Jordan. Drives a long kick up the southern wing. Ben Brown underneath it, slipping over. For Collingwood was Howe, allowed Neil Bullen to gather. Hand pass looking for Oliver. Pinched by side bottom of Collingwood. Turns aggressively into the middle of the ground. Spots McCreary.
It's not the panic here. The ground is big at the moment. There's players everywhere. Just got to find the loose.
Pies by 4. McCreary inside 50. Gorn competes in the air. Brings it to ground. Here's Lipinski, centre half forward for Collingwood. Hand pass to Crisp. He's drilled in the tackle from Brayshaw. Says it's fair. And a ball up centre half forward for Collingwood.
Good umpiring. Yeah. That was a genuine duck into a tackle. We'll have a look at another angle. Oh, was it?
Pies fans wanted a free. They didn't get it. Gorn wins the hit out centre half back. It's tapped through to Lipinski. Dumps a kick to the top of the goal square. Hibbard leads Henry to the footy. And Hibbard for Melbourne. Sweeping hand pass to Jordan in front of the behind post.
Looks for short options out of the fence. Sparrow flying. Couldn't hang on to the mark. Almost a gully fielder as he propelled himself to the right. Got it back to Jordan. Kicks to Fritsch. A one-on-one with Murphy. Big Mason Cox kicks back to offer support. Chips it over the top to Pendlebury. He's just held up for a moment by Cozzy Pickett. The Collingwood captain wants to get it to Hoskin Elliott. He has a metre on Harms. Looks inside 50. Here comes Henry. And he got one from Lever as he claimed the mark over the head. It could have been 50, Boomer.
There was a little slap to the back of the head after he marked it, I reckon, on the way down. Lever was angry. I was just watching him having a little bit of a jumper push before this play about a minute ago. So Henry's obviously getting under his guard.
It's had a really quiet day, but he's a bit of a last quarter specialist, isn't he? And just his ability to get aerial there. It's a lovely kick from Hoskin Elliott to set it up.
He's had some big moments in Collingwood's recent victories. Here he is, Ollie Henry. Answers the call. And Collingwood are back out by 10 points. Make your moments count is what they say. And Ollie Henry does just that. 9-10-64 the Pies to Melbourne 8-6-54. 19 minutes gone, final term.
Bally, what about Big Mason Cox just staying down on that, getting behind the ball, playing as a sweeper, so to speak, and just the composure to hit the skipper over the top. And Pendlebury, he had great composure and hit Elliott. And Elliott, that's what they haven't been able to do all day. That last kick inside 50 hasn't been fantastic for the Pies, and that one by Hoskin Elliott, that was perfect.
Yeah, it was, yeah. I've never seen him cover the ground this well, Mason Cox. He's done it at all ends of the ground, and you're right, that time then he just worked his way back to create the outnumber. Been a superb game, but he's got to finish it off here. His centre bounce is critical again.
Collingwood have kicked 6 of the last 7 in the game. They lead it by 10. Cox wins the hit out, but Melbourne with the clearance. Petrarca kicks to half forward, awkwardly spinning footy. Mitch Brown went without it. Pickett runs down Murphy's. He went to kick it off centre half back. Pack forms behind the pair. And the umpire says ball up 52 out from Melbourne's goal. Momentum entirely with Collingwood. D's led the game by as many as 22 midway through the second. Cox just pushes it into the middle of the ground. Elliott whacks it on. Bowie, though, clean take for Melbourne. Hand pass to Lever. Hand pass to Harms, but Melbourne retreating. Kicks out wide. Jordan at the drop. Can't mark, but butters up. Jordan on the wing. Kicks into the corridor. Here's Sparrow. Melbourne a little disjointed going forward. Short kick to Harms. He marks 54 out. Hand pass away to Viney. Viney closes to 40 out. Viney kicks goal and it's whacked through on the line.
What a game. It's got everything.
Getting back, Quaynor just knocks it through. And a minor score for the Demons cuts Collingwood's lead to 9. Time on, final turn.
Had Gorn free in the pocket. Jack drew the opponent, went himself. Just didn't quite have the journey. Collingwood bring it back in. Howe to side bottom. Now to Noble. Still in the right back pocket for Collingwood. Pies by 9 points. Sends it long up to the southern wing. Lipinski and Myercheck there. Petty spoils it down to Salem. Hand pass to Hibbert. Kicks towards half forward. Pendlebury. Marks on his chest at right half back for the Pies. Kicks into the middle of the ground. A risky kick, but Mason Cox has been on. He takes the mark. He wants to go to Elliott. It hung in the air a moment. He just takes it in front of Mitch Brown. Slaps it to his own advantage. And then a second knock-on away from Harms. Gets it to Josh Dacos. Kicks to the goal mouth. Henry from behind. Hibbert brought it down. Lipinski one way, then the other. Kicks towards Myercheck, who marks a couple of metres out. Just worked Petty underneath it. Brodie Myercheck just a couple of steps from the goal line. A chance to kick his fourth. He's second in the final term. He's just telling the umpire, I'm going to take my full 30 seconds here. Don't hurry me up.
As he should, yeah. Been superb, Myercheck. Just so consistent.
Myercheck comes in, puts through his fourth. They'll be hard to run down now. Collingwood by 15 points. 10-10-70 to the Demons, 8-7-55. They throw down the challenge to the reigning premiers, who's looking down the barrel of 3 consecutive losses. 23 minutes gone, final term.
That was a kick from Pendlebury, mate, wasn't it? I mean, you'd be forgiven to go back and this stage of the game, but Collingwood, they've kept playing the way they want to play, haven't they?
Yeah,
regardless of the state of the game.
I think they can change that slightly now, Bally, because they can chip the ball around with 4 minutes to go, whatever there is to go. It's but that kick has been broken. They've broken Melbourne's back there. That's 7 out of the last 8 goals by the Pies. 7 out of the last 8 goals. They've been fantastic in this second half of football.
Cox involved again. Elliott was superb.
Oh, Elliott, that's a moment. That's right there. That's a moment. Body on line, tap the ball, keep it alive.
Collingwood by 15, their biggest lead of the game. Cox palms it down. Crisp in the centre, trying to get a hand pass away, turns it over. Petrarca gives it to Oliver, standing still. Off to Viney, squeeze a kick forward. Attack on the footy from Noble. Up to meet it. Sends his kick down to half forward. Here's Elliott, just threw it out to Josh Dacos. Gives it back to Elliott in front of the benches. Hand pass for Collingwood to Noble. He draws Spargo in the air. Kicks to half forward. Clears everyone's head. Out the back, Hibbert keeps it alive. In the back pocket, Melbourne a long way from home and still 15 points down. Hand pass to Lever. Kicks to Petrarca. It went over his head. Here's Cox for Collingwood. Cox sells a dummy, the big man. Kicks towards the hot spot. Henry dragged down. Free kick. It's going Melbourne's way.
Oh, they're going to go now. They have to go. They've got to go corridor now.
Petty, quick hand pass to Brayshaw. Straight down the middle. Works it to Sparrow, to Oliver. He has it at the back edge of the centre square. Wants to play on. Gives it back to Brayshaw. Kicks laterally to Jordan. He marks it right half back. Thought about advancing it to Sparrow. Spargo goes for a more adventurous kick. Straight through the middle to Viney. Turns onto his left. Kicks towards Ben Brown. He's got it at its highest point. Wastes no time, turns, snaps on his right and misses.
Got to kick them, Brownie. Can't do that to snap. Still had plenty of time, though he does take 50 seconds to kick the goal.
Collingwood by 14 points. A moment is wasted for Melbourne and Ben Brown.
Time running out on the Demons. It's been a horrid week, filled with off-field episodes, and now back on the park. They're staring down the barrel of 3 straight losses. Howe goes long to half-back, and Mason Cox This is 2018 prelim edition of Mason.
It is. Mark number 9, possession number 21. Spinning the ball in his hands. He's got a bit of a sniff about him, the big fella.
A real American kicks it all the way down the line. Looking forward, Myercheck spills to Bowie. He heads back to half forward for the Demons. Gorn and Jackson both up in the pack, but it comes down to Noble. Hand pass away to Howe. Dishes it off to Pendlebury. Looks into the corridor. He just draws Petrarca in front of the interchange. Hand pass to Adams. He threads it through to Myercheck.
Short to McCreary over the top. Just in front of Josh Dacos, who runs onto it. Hand pass to Crisp. Charging through 50 to finish. He does. As Ginnivan lays the block on Brayshaw on the goal line. And Collingwood are surging to their 8th victory of the season. And Flyers Pies will be back in the top 8 as they head towards the bye. 11-10-76 to Melbourne. 8-8-56. 27 minutes gone. Final term on ABC Sport.
Well, 8 of the last 9 goals the Pies have kicked, and it was an amazing player. I know why the Pies fans get a little bit frustrated with Mason Cox, because if this is what he can serve up, and he has games where he has 2 or 3 possessions, this has been unbelievable to watch. The big fella's had 22 touches, 21 touches, and done some really good and important things in the second half of this game.
He has been.
It's been great.
Chris been brilliant again too. Just again, so ever reliable and consistent. Works from start to finish and gets his reward with a goal. The vote's going to be hard to give today, Boom.
I'm glad you're doing it, Bully, not me.
76,059 the attendance for Big Freeze 8. What a place on the calendar it holds, and Collingwood's stranglehold over Melbourne set to continue. This will be 6 of their last 7 against the Demons. Gorn wins it down to Viney. Kicks to centre half forward. Sparrow competes, but it falls to Nick Dacos. He jams it on the boot, and Brayshaw takes the intercept mark back edge of the centre square. Collingwood by 20. It's been a 7-goal turnaround in the game. Down to half forward, Gorn was the target. Slips out the back to Hoskin Elliott. He threads a hand pass to Nick Dacos. Links up with Noble on the 1-2.
Kicks up towards Elliott. He's able to slap it away from Lever. Got it to Josh Dacos. Kicks around his body. Back in front of Elliott. Bounced off his chest. Couldn't hang on to it. Viney trying to find the boundary line. Eventually he does as he taps it over the boundary in front of Taylor Adams. So 76,000, a great attendance to have. The Queen's Birthday Monday back at the MCG. Of course, we have the Neale Daniher Trophy as well. Haven't had that since 2019. Adam Treloar, the last winner of it. Thrown back in as the Collingwood chant goes around the MCG. Petrarca tries to get it away to Brayshaw. Trying to link up with Neil Bullen. He slips over. Josh Dacos picks it up. Kicks towards the pocket. Running onto it. Elliott's going to kick another one. Jamie Elliott with his 3rd. And the Pies are running away from the reigning champs now. 26 points at the 28-minute mark. And the questions that have come quick and fast around the Demons' second halves. 12-10-82 to Melbourne 8-8-56. Collingwood all of a sudden putting on a flurry in the final term. 6 goals to 1.
It's been an avalanche, really, hasn't it? They've got their tails up now, but they've just overrun them. Boom, they're just covering the ground better. They've had the courage to run. It's been old and new. Pendlebury's had moments again. Noble's had a great quarter.
Yep.
Elliott, great to see you back. He's such an important player to Collingwood in that front half with his intensity, and he's got his rewards today with a couple of goals as well. It's just been such an impressive performance. We're set up with how they attack the footy and their pressure and tackling, but completely overrun and overwhelmed the reigning champs.
Pies will be in the 8 and the D's will lose top spot unless something can change here. As Gorn grabs it out of the ruck, kicks down to half forward. Noble's tackled down by Sparrow, and a pack forms just forward of the wing for Melbourne. So given the percentage drop, Brisbane will go into first spot. And what a game that shapes as in a fortnight's time, Thursday week. It's going to be Melbourne and Brisbane back here at the MCG after the D's have a week off. From the ball up to go, he's tackled, taken to ground, and we'll have another ball up on the wing. Up it goes, the rucks wrestle. Oliver jams it on the boot, kicks inside 50, but Braden Maynard takes the intercept mark at centre half back for Collingwood.
Goes short to Quaynor, who has it in the left back pocket. Half an hour gone in the final term. Quaynor looks long to the members' wing, sends it towards Cameron. Myercheck's there, levering from the side, can't take the mark. Josh Dacos has it. The siren sounds, and Collingwood down the reigning premiers. The Pies' best might be good enough. A 26-point victory over the Demons, and winter has arrived. 3 straight losses for the Demons as they head to the bye.
Side by side they stick together to uphold the Magpies' name. See the barricades are shouting as all barricades shout. Oh, the premiership's a cakewalk for the good old Collingwood.
The Demons kicked 3 goals to none in the opening term. Collingwood could only manage 5 behinds. Melbourne by 14 points at quarter time, by 8 points at half time. The Demons led by 2 at three-quarter time before Collingwood kicked 6 goals to 1 in the final term to run out 26-point winners. 12-10-82 to the Demons 8-8-56 in front of 76,059 fans. The Demons, their 3rd consecutive loss. The Pies, they're back in the 8-5.
Collingwood forever, they know how to play the game. Side by side they stick together to uphold the Magpies' name. See the barricades are shouting as all barricades shout. Oh, the premiership's a cakewalk for the good old Collingwood.
Brodie Myercheck finished with 4 for the winners. He kicked 2 in the final term. Jamie Elliott with 3, including 2 in the last term. Individuals for Henry, Crisp, McCreary, Ginnivan and Cox. Meanwhile, for the Demons, 2 goals to Ben Brown. Individuals to Jackson, Viney, Oliver, Jordan, Fritsch and Pickett. The Demons will stay on top of the ladder, but only by the smallest of margins, as the gap is now closed between them and the chasing pack.
Pies by 26. And hell might have just frozen over. So from 17 wins in a row to 3 straight losses, the Premiers in free fall. And what an interesting competition we've got through 13 rounds of the AFL season. Luke Ball and Brent Harvey.
What a game. I'm so glad I came along today and was able to sit up here with the best seats in the house and have a look at these 2 teams to go at it. They were fantastic. I learned a lot about Collingwood today, Bally. I learned a lot about Collingwood and some players that I hadn't really seen before. The Demons, 3 in a row now. You know what they say with Kevin Sheedy back then, or Lee Matthews, and if they bleed, you can kill them. It's teams are going to be looking at this now and seeing the way they go.
We'll come back to you, lads. Here's Beck Daniher.
Now to present the trophy, this is the Neale Daniher trophy. So on behalf of Dad, I want to present the winner to Clayton Oliver.
So Clayton Oliver in a losing cause, 43 disposals, 21 kicks, 22 hand passes. He had 16 of his 43 as contested possessions, 6 clearances, 8 inside 50, 6 score involvements and kicked a goal.
Yeah, look, in the end, the result probably overshadows
obviously
the
it's
game.
huge honour to be able to play in this game. What Neale's doing, and it's unbelievable work for MND. We appreciate it. It was a huge honour playing the game. Collingwood too good today, and hats off to you.
He's not much of a talker at the best of times, Clary, and I'm not sure we're ever hopeful of getting too many words out of him after his team has now lost 3 on the bounce. Collingwood by 26. Spawley and Boomer.
My maths was off as well. Brisbane jump ahead by 0.2. So Brisbane now on top. Melbourne and Fremantle all level on points.
Well, there you go. I think, as you said, Corb, it's it's good for the comp, isn't it? She's back open. If there was any doubt before this week, she's back open.
Well, imagine every team from really 1 to 12 on the ladder are probably looking at this thinking, okay, all of a sudden it's right open
game on.
And we're a chance to not only make the 8, but to actually make some noise when we get there.
Yeah, it certainly makes things interesting, because I'll tell you what, 4 weeks ago, speaking about football, Ball, I'd say it's a waste of a year.
Daylight second.
You know, Brisbane up in Brisbane are going to be hard to beat, obviously, but Melbourne, where the grand finals played at the MCG, are just going to be way too good for anyone. Well, I think that changes a little bit now. The May factor is huge.
Yep.
The Stephen May factor is huge. The last 3 games that he hasn't been available for, I know he played 5 minutes of the first game that they lost. they've lost all 3.
Yep.
And there's a snowballing effect. I know now Lever has to go back and play on someone who can't come off because you got the general May sitting there. You know, there's little things, that snowballing effect there. Players were down today. Gorn didn't have a great day, got injured. Out in the wing, we spoke about Langdon out in the wing, didn't have a great game.
Struggling a bit.
Fritsch didn't get in. You know, Ben Brown kicked a couple, but only had the eight possessions. So things are not going super well for Melbourne, but, you know, it's credit to the other teams who have been able to put the pressure on. Collingwood's pressure today, absolutely outstanding. Your man, McCreary, he done some things today, Ball. He's chasing.
I'd love to see his GPS.
He's chasing today.
Would be through the roof.
There was 3 in the last quarter where he made up that much ground. It wasn't funny, and he didn't even impact it. He just perceived pressure on the Melbourne players, and the ball got turned over up on the centre wing. I thought he was outstanding without touching the ball too many times. 13 times. And I agree with you. You called it a few times during the day. I can't believe he's had 11 touches halfway through that last quarter. It's because his impact in the game was so much greater.
Yeah, and I think in the end, I think the spread of contributors across the board won the day for the Pies in the end. I mean, Oliver, certainly in the first half, was clearly the best on ground and potentially across the duration of the game, deserved his best on ground medal. But I think that more speaks to, so he was great. I thought Viney worked hard. Was his usual self. Petrarca had moments. Only had 20 handballs, so that talks to the pressure. 12 kicks, 20 handballs. You'd like to see that flipped. Brayshaw's third quarter was incredible, unbelievable. But then there was a bit of a drop away, whereas I think Collingwood had a greater spread of contributors across the game. When you go through the list, I mean, Nick Dacos, 33 possessions again. Crisp, although he was opposed to Oliver for a bit, he works, across the 4 quarters. Maynard was terrific. He was explosive through the middle. Pendlebury had some poor moments, but late in the game, his experience really stood up. Even Hoskin Elliott out in the wing had some good moments late in the game. Elliott, Noble, and Quain all behind the ball. So I think just their spread of contributions across the board was greater than Melbourne's, and you get the result that you get. But no, it was a really entertaining game, Boomer. The finals, like atmosphere, the crowd, obviously, and just the pressure that was on the disposals. Really forced, or the players that made good decisions and stood out on a day like today. And Collingwood had more of them than the Demons.
Mason Cox just brought himself a new contract, you reckon, after today?
He was one guy we didn't mention that. He was just magnificent. I think I called it. I haven't seen him cover the ground that well. I think that they released him a bit. Perhaps against the Gawn-Jackson combination, he was required to spend a bit more time in the ruck. I'm not sure what the breakdown has been up until then, but he was just magnificent. And when he clunks a few early and gets a bit of a sniff of it, he confidence out. But he was doing it on the ground. He was working back to support the defence. Through the middle of the ground, he was working hard to get some ground balls, and his decision making when he had the ball was terrific as well. So.
There's a couple of times.
Terrific game.
A couple of times he kicked the ball, and I seen you go, oh, like this. But if they hit his target, they give him a little bit of air.
Yeah,
that's because he's got long legs. He has to give him a bit of air. But no, I thought he was. And like you said, Bully, it wasn't just the marking. There was a 5 or 6 minute period up this end, up the punt road end of the ground where he was in defence, and he had 4 or 5 marks. I thought that was fantastic. But it was the little things he was doing around the ground as well that I hadn't seen before. Confidence player, absolutely clinchy.
Yeah, Brody Mychek, just such a consistent player, isn't he? He's just a workhorse. He kicks the 4 goals in the end. That's the margin. So I thought, across the first half, he looked the most dangerous Collingwood forward, where they were really struggling to impact forward to centre. And then as the game wore on and things opened up a bit, he was a beneficiary. Him and Elliott were the beneficiary of Collingwood being able to kick into an open forward line, which again, this Melbourne team, when they're at their best, we're just not used to seeing when they've got May behind the ball. And I think at the other end's the real concern, though, Boomer. I mean, May we know will come back next week, but McDonald seems to be out for a while. Wiedemann went out of the side this week. You said Brown got on the end of a few, but that's where their biggest issues lie for mine at the moment. Their inability to look, to look potent, really, forward of centre. I mean, they're getting supply. I mean, Oliver's had 43, Viney 33, Petrarca 32. How many inside 50? They've had 52 inside 50s. They just don't look super dangerous as they once did going forward of centre. So plenty of work to do, obviously, for the reigning champs. They won't be panicking. They didn't this week. I don't think they will. They'll get May back. They'll go to town. they have to shift that mindset back to being, okay, everyone's hunted us for 15 or 13 weeks now. We got to get some of that hunter mentality back into our game.
So the Pies make it 4 in a row. All of a sudden, they're back inside the top 8, and they also continue Melbourne's losing skid. So all of a sudden, the Demons have dropped 3 in a row after a 17-game run winning sequence, which extended back to last year and, of course, included that drought-breaking premiership. Into the victorious Collingwood rooms, Andrew Mays is about to welcome them in.
Thank you, Corbin. Plenty of family here as the media and photographers and digital media teams at footy clubs now are about 10 deep. So there's plenty of people who get into the rooms before the players. And as they enter, a clap for all the families, high fives as they come in. Jack Crisp has got a daughter in each arm, so his 2 girls with him to enjoy this celebration. Still, Sidebottom's got his little girl, so it's very much a family affair here in the Collingwood rooms, but definitely up and about, and you can tell this one meant maybe just that little bit more to knock off the reigning premiers, as there's plenty of excitement in the room. Mason Cox, last one to get down, here he is. So very happy Collingwood rooms down here. You might have heard the shushing at the start of that song. That was for Steele Sidebottom's little girl who had a bit of a concerned look on her face. She's got some words to learn. Jack Crisp's daughters both had it covered at a very happy rooms down here. We'll be back shortly with a player.
All the reaction coming up. Thanks, Maisie, and we'll head into hopefully both rooms for a word with Melbourne suffering another defeat, so it's their 3rd in a row. Collingwood winners, though, and plenty of focus on them now that they're in the top 8. So they got a fascinating form line, Collingwood. They have wins now over St Kilda, Fremantle, Carlton, and Melbourne.
Yep.
So 4 top 8 teams they've beaten, and inexplicably they have a loss to West Coast, which no other team in the competition owns, and they're inside the top 8 at the bye.
Yeah, and pushed Brisbane up there to 2 goals. So, yeah, you can argue there's forms as good as any.
Yep. Which led Geelong at 3/4 time here.
That's right. Yep, that's right. So, I think Collingwood supporter, you walk away, obviously the result, but I think they're starting to build a brand. You're liking what you're seeing. It's a good mix of young and old. There's a clear way that they want to attack, and their intensity and their tackling pressure is really high up there in the competition.
Let's head into the winners' rooms. Andrew Mays.
Great to have Nick Dacos here on Grandstand AFL. Nick, in terms of the intensity today, obviously your first year of footy at AFL level, how did you feel that compared to the other games you've played so far? Because watching it felt bordering on September stuff.
Yeah, no, all the games are intense. Obviously, I haven't experienced September yet, so I can't relate. But, obviously Melbourne are the top side at the moment, so to bring that heat against them and they brought the pressure against us, it was just a great game and really intense, yeah.
Did you feel a bit more of that heat as you're coming out of the back line with a team like Melbourne, who have been renowned for their team defence over the last 18 months?
No, for sure. They got great pressure players. I think Cozzy Pickett, Spargo, those boys did a great job pressuring us, but we were really lucky today. Our forwards down the line, like they do every week, gave us a great fight and kept bringing the ball to ground, so they made us look good.
Your composure coming out of the back line, is it something you've had to learn? Is it something you've always had? How did you come about that sort of skill level? Because you seem to be doing it with ease in your first year.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I'm definitely not doing it with ease. It's definitely been a major step up, but as everyone knows, we've got great leaders in our back line, so I've settled in really well and they've made me feel really at home, so I greatly appreciate it.
One last one before we head upstairs to Luke Ball and Brent Harvey. I want to ask you about Big Mason Cox. You might have been a Carlton supporter back a few years ago when he tore a preliminary final apart, but is that the best you've seen him play?
I've seen him play some good games, but I think that's definitely up there. It's definitely the best game I've seen him play while being on the field with him. He's just such a presence, the way he was getting behind the ball, marking, and then on the flip side, getting forward and taking contested marks. It was just great to see, and he made our work a lot easier.
Luke Ball and Brent Harvey upstairs. Gents.
Nick, Brent Harvey here, mate. First of all, congratulations on the team performance and yourself. I thought you were outstanding today. Maisie spoke about your composure. You might not think it's easy, but you make it look fairly easy from up here, buddy. So congratulations. Have you played much football off half-back as a junior?
Thank you, Brent. But not a lot, to be honest. It's something we experimented with a little bit at school footy for half a dozen games, but no, it's been more since I've progressed into AFL, but I'm loving it so far.
And tell me one thing, when you get the ball and Josh is around, do you try to give it to him every time?
No, actually, I've been trying to burn him a bit. I think he burns me, so I'm trying to get him back.
Nick, it's Luke Ball. Congratulations, mate. It was a terrific game to watch today. Talk about your ball use today. I mean, this Melbourne team defence has been much vaunted over the last couple of years, but it looked like from a pretty early stage in the game, every time you got it across that half-back, you're at least looking to bring the ball back inside on the 45, and a couple of times you're really able to transition the ball through the corridor and get Melbourne out the back.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, no, I think that was a credit to the coaching staff, to be honest. They told us pre-game to be brave, ball in hand, so they gave us the pass, and then the boys were just able to execute it, which was great. And as I said, the forwards created great option, great fight. So at times, I'm sure fans were watching a bit nervous with what we're doing ball in hand, but hopefully we're able to excite them.
Nick, did the coaches speak at all about the importance of today and how is it going to be a little bit more like finals? Did they talk about the heat in the game at all, or it was just another game at the MCG for you boys?
Yeah, no, I know it does sound cliche, but we're trying to take it one step at a time. So we sort of haven't mentioned finals, but we were aware coming up against a side like Melbourne that's obviously been super consistent the last couple of years that they were going to bring the heat and bring the pressure. So yeah, it was just really lucky that we were able to stand up, and hopefully we can continue that for the rest of the year. It's really exciting.
Now, Nick, it's Matt Clinch here. You played in front of 80,000 against Carlton, 80,000 against Essendon, now 76 on a Queen's Birthday Monday. Do you get nervous? What's it like when you hear the crowd roar, and do you have that moment where you end up sort of pinching yourself that here I am out amongst it?
Hey, Matt, yeah, for sure. It's definitely, I get nervous before every game. I think a lot of the boys do. It's pretty natural, but when you're running out for Collingwood in front of these big crowds, it is a bit daunting at times. But luckily, I've been able to get a tiny bit of experience in. We've had a few of these games this year, so I'm slowly feeling a bit more confident. But it's super exciting. It's something I'm really looking forward to for the next couple of years, hopefully running out in front of these crowds. I think the support we're getting at the moment's unreal, and it's really giving us that extra man on the field.
Now, selfishly, Mark Murphy works with us on a Sunday. Was he one of your favourite players growing up?
Yeah, Murph definitely was. He was, I thought he was a superstar, so I loved watching Murph play.
So who's sort of giving you advice once you got to Collingwood? Who are sort of the leaders who you're trying to emulate now at Collingwood?
Oh, to be honest, there's been a lot of them. But Pendles, Howie, Braden Maynard even, there's just been a lot of blokes that have been really good with not only myself but all the first-year boys and academy boys, 1 to 4 year boys have just been, giving a wealth of knowledge and even experiences like this. A lot of us will go to them during the week and sort of poke questions at them and see how to best cope with these crowds. And, they're unreal with the knowledge they give us.
Nick Dacos on Grandstand AFL. Nick, so GWS next Sunday week. You've got a bye, so first time you've experienced that, obviously, as an AFL player. How are you planning to spend the days off?
Fortunately, I'm going to Sydney for the week, so it'll be a nice little reset for the boys, especially going in with a win. So looking forward to it, and I'll rest the body.
When are you required back? How long do you get off?
Next Monday, so we've got the 7 days off.
And do they give you much advice before you head away?
I think just be smart. We're in a good position as a club at the moment, so we're just making sure that we don't do anything that could hinder that. But I think the boys are a really mature group, and yes, I think it sort of goes without saying that hopefully, we'll be in the same position next week and ready to go to attack the Giants.
You clearly are a very intelligent young man, just listening to you speak and obviously watching you play. You look right at home in the AFL landscape. 36 last week, 33 disposals today. You're the prohibitive Rising Star favourite. How has it compared the experience through your first 12 games in the AFL as to what you thought it would be?
It's sort of been everything and more, and especially the way the team's going, I think. A lot of people sort of expected us to not really be doing as well as we're doing, but we had that inner belief that we could challenge anyone, as we proved today against the top side. So it's been a really exciting start to my career, and hopefully the back half of the season we can keep improving.
Is there anything that's caught you by surprise where you thought, I wasn't expecting that as an AFL player?
I guess just that feeling. The speed of the game obviously has been a big jump, but that feeling when we'll kick a goal late in the game and the crowd's like it was today, it's just absolutely deafening. So that's definitely caught me by surprise.
Enjoy the moments, Nick. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Nick Dacos in the victorious Collingwood rooms. The Pies completing an 8-goal turnaround. They were 22 down midway through the second and won by 26.
Why did he play for Carlton?
So apparently he was close personal friends with the Silvanis, and so grew up with one of the younger Silvanis. And essentially, Chris Judd arrived in town, and that was enough to pull him across, so the story goes.
Dad would have been wrapped.
I was going to say, not to mention his old man's a Collingwood legend, so it probably would have been a nice way to ruffle him up. But
Not just a player who played 15 games or something, an absolute star. That's bizarre, Bully.
Yeah, it is, actually. It really is, yeah. God, he speaks well, though, doesn't he? Jeez, he's such an impressive young player and person.
Is there a better first-year player in the game than Nick Dacos?
It's a good question. I think
Not on
the numbers.
consistency.
No, I think week in, week out, and I think what the club have done have really looked after him well. And we were talking earlier about the number one draft pick, Boomer, and I think I read that maybe it's an opportunity for North. And I know that the teams are at different stages, but for North to put him behind the ball and just to get his confidence up, get a bit more uncontested footy, and get him out of the sort of the
hustle bustle.
Yeah, that's right, the hustle bustle of the inside and having to play forward. So I think they've handled him really well. But clearly he has prepared in a way, in a manner that's allowed that to happen. So no, so impressive. And I think across the 13 games, I think he has been the best first-year player.
You know what I love? He wants the ball in hand.
Absolutely.
So down back, some players shy away from having the ball, especially if you make a mistake. I don't want this one. I see him today. It's no coincidence that he's a good player already. He kicks the ball and then sprints
Runs,
35. Now, if he doesn't get it, it just opens up the play for other players. But he wants ball in hand, and he's composed. I know he said it doesn't look like, it doesn't feel like that sometimes. He's got composure oozing.
So would you have him in front of John Newcombe and Sam De Koning?
I'd have to have a look at the sort of whole body of work for each. I think so. Yeah, I think there's a little bit extra that comes with being the number one pick too. I know that doesn't come into account, but sorry, not the number one pick, but a really high draft pick name, etc. I just think, consistently, it's a good field. Clearly, it's a really good field of players, and there'll be more to come. But I'd have him just ahead. I think he's deserved favourite.
He plays GWS next after the bye. I don't know if you remember the comments from Nick before the draft where he said he was disappointed that the Giants didn't meet with him. So the Giants decided that, look, we're not going to get him anyway because Collingwood will match the bid. So they didn't sit down with him. And Nick felt a little disrespected or a little slighted by that, saying, look, if I'm one of the top picks, I thought I would get a meeting at least. They decided to take Finn Callaghan and not bid on him. So he fell from where everyone thought he probably would have gone at pick 2 or 3 to pick 4 overall. So that's the next assignment for the Pies. Big picture Collingwood, we love projections. So 8-5 at the moment, Collingwood. They're in the 8. They've won their last 4 games. They don't play another top 8 team until they play Melbourne again in round 21.
I was just looking at they got the bye next week. Then they got the Giants, Gold Coast away. That'll be tough because they're going okay, the Giants. Then they got North Melbourne. Tough again, tough. But you sort of look at that and you go, well, you know what? Well, if we're good enough, we definitely win 2 out of the 3. But, if not, 3. 3 from 3. And then they set their season up to launch. And who knows? Is there a top 4 spot available for them?
So the other part is Collingwood now 8-5. So the winning margin to get in the top 8. I mean, we're starting to look at 13, 14 wins really to be a top 8 side.
And Essendon made it last year with 11.
Yeah.
And you're looking at, like you said, probably 13, given that there's so few wins for the teams down the bottom.
I think that's the key, isn't it? Yeah, there's a big drop-off to the bottom 3 or 4. So it's 12 in percentage, if not 13, I think, isn't it? So they won't talk about it, and it's a bit of a trap for them to fall in, especially with a young group. But at some stage, they start to sort of look at that and break it down into 4-week blocks, as you said, Boom. They get the reset now off the break, but that next 4-week block, they can eye that with plenty of confidence, get a few back, a healthy list, and who knows?
Absolutely. On the other side of it, the bye for Melbourne, and then the big one against Brisbane.
Well, I was about to say, we had Kate Roffey in the box pre-game. Some of our audience on the network joined us at 3 o'clock, so would have missed that chat. But it was emphasised as to the punishment that goes along with missing the game. Imagine how Stephen May's feeling right now. He's driving home from the G and his side was up at 3/4 time. They needed him. They were under siege in the final quarter and he wasn't there.
There's a few players having a run around a little job. Surprised he's not out there, to be honest. Having a little run around a training session. So Tomlinson and a few others.
Emergencies plus Chandler. So Baker and Tomlinson are out there. But I mean, the most concerning part, push Stephen May to one side, is they've now been overrun in 3 consecutive weeks. So you don't feel like it's one person or one element of their game that's struggling. They've got issues trying to take marks inside 50 and their best players are not playing at the level they have previously.
No, and they've gone 56, 61 and 56 points for over the last 3 weeks. That's the biggest issue, I think.
Let's get a player's perspective on that. Alex Neil-Bullen is with our own Andrew Mays in the Melbourne rooms.
Alex, it's an interesting feeling. When I walked into the rooms, you couldn't tell that you'd had a close loss. Obviously, this group seems to have a lot of perspective about it now as well. How are you feeling so soon after a disappointing loss again?
Yeah, as soon as the siren goes, you're absolutely gutted. But then I guess you look at the full journey we're on. Teams go through situations like this a lot. It's how you respond, and it's something now we've got 4 days away from the footy club. How we use them is up to us, but it's a time to reset and look to attack the second half of the year. There's still a lot of opportunity in this season, and yeah, you can't get too down in the dumps in this game because it'll run over you pretty quick.
Very similar position last year as well. We had the fast start and then a bit wayward in the middle part of the season. Can you remember what you did last year? Was it time away from the game? Was it a break that did you good? Can you remember what you put in place?
No, not exactly. I'd always come back to down to what our week looks like. As a playing group, we pride ourselves on that, and at the end of the day, you've got to keep improving. And from where we're at now to where we can come out here against Brisbane Lions in a week and a half, we want to put out a good performance, so that's what we'll be focusing on.
I don't know if you've had a chance to meet with Goody yet, but I just wanted to ask from your perspective, what one of the main issues today was that you were wanting to improve on from last week that you weren't able to execute.
As a group, we look to stand for a team that can wrestle momentum back, and without going into too much detail, that's something I feel that we need to get back to. When a team kicks a couple of goals, how we can control the momentum, and then also how can we capitalise. So it's something that's going to be continued progress of how we can keep improving, and I'm very confident that we will keep improving.
One last one before we head upstairs. The intensity of today, it seemed to go up a level as well. That was almost a September-like feel. Did you feel that out there?
Yeah, definitely. It was a great atmosphere. That's one thing I will say. And the Pies brought the heat around the footy. We try to match it, but at the end of the day, it did feel like a very contested game of footy.
Let's head upstairs, gents. We've got Alex for a couple of minutes.
Alex, it's Luke Ball here. Bad luck today. It was a terrific game to watch. I agree. It was a real finals-like intensity. We had your president in the box before the game, just talking about the upcoming bye and the challenges that you face when you go all the way, you have a shorter break, turn around and you become the hunted. Do you see it as an opportunity, I guess, to sort of switch that mindset around now to, okay, everyone's been hunting us for 13 weeks. Let's shift that around and really sort of get our hunter mentality back on in this back half of the year.
Yeah, you're spot on, Bully. That's something as a group we will look at. At the end of the day, every footy game, you realise you've got to bring your best, and long term, we want to continue to keep growing as a group, and that's something we're going to have a really good look at. And over these next 4 days, it's just really about every individual understanding what's going to make them return back to the club day one to bring a good mindset and an intensity that will continue to make us improve.
Alex, there's been a lot of talk about, obviously, Stephen May missing this week. I'm not too fussed about the off-field side of it. What do you lose? What do you lose as a player, as a leader on field when Stephen May doesn't play?
Yeah, Maisie brings a level of leadership that's hard to replace because he's a lot of the time the last defender. He can see the whole ground, so he'll get a good read on the game, and he's also not scared to give some direct feedback, which is only helps the group.
So does somebody else take that control fully today, or do you just try to meet? I've seen Petty there a couple of times. I've seen Lever there a couple of times. Is that a whole group backline thing, or is it just one person's got to take charge?
Certainly something we like to think players can help out. We don't want to give it to one individual because at the end of the day we want our players to play with their strengths, and that's something that Maisie's hard to replicate. So we put responsibility on those boys, but it's also us, the midfielders and the forwards, to help out defensively, and that's something that we're going to continue to look at.
Alex Neil-Bullen with us on ABC Sport. Alex, it's Matt Clinch here. Do you have a theory around your sort of second halves? 9 goals to 5 today against Collingwood, but it's sort of been a trend in the last 3 games.
No, not off the top of my head. Again, I'll just come back to the momentum of games. It just feels like at the moment a team kicks a few and we can't wrestle back the momentum quite like we have before. So, yeah, it's just probably something that we'll definitely look at. We pride ourselves on a good, honest review, but at the end of the day, it's our intensity that needs to maintain over a four-quarter period.
And Tom McDonald obviously out. Is that something you might get a chance to work on more elaborately during the bye?
Yeah, Tommy's crucial to our system, but we've also got guys that Mitchie Brown, Benny Brown, Sammy Wiedemann, that they got to stand up, and we'll continue to support all us boys up in the forward line because it's definitely an area that we pride ourselves on, and is our connection and our finish.
Alex Neale Bullen with us on Grandstand AFL. Collingwood home by 26 points, completing an 8-goal turnaround. Alex, just on the events of the week. So basically, once it plays out on Sunday night in the fashion that it did, I guess, can you talk us through it just as a member of the playing group, how it was handled internally?
When we got to the footy club, the boys just got up the front and apologised, and then, to be totally honest, we just wanted to get out on the track and put it all behind us. I know there's probably been a lot of noise in the media, but for us, all we can control is now what we put out on the field, and that's what we're going to continue going forward now.
The noisy bit in the media is really centred around the nature of a sledge that had to do with the haves and the have-nots on grand final day last year. Was that discussed as a playing group?
Nah, no detail around that. It was just the actions that the boys said they apologised for, and there wasn't too much more detail to the whole playing group.
Are you confident, apart from the results, that issue's behind you?
Yeah, certainly. We're looking forward, and this is what the next 4 days will bring. A bit of a reset method, how the boys use it, and come back on Saturday, day one, to attack training, prepare for the Lions, which will be another brutal game.
What have you got planned for the bye?
I'm going to just stay around Melbourne. Got a caravan I'm working on at the moment, so good to take my mind off. And yeah, that's probably about it at the moment.
Enjoy that. We'll see you Thursday week.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Alex Neale Bullen from the Melbourne Football Club. Home by 26 points. Collingwood in the finish, 12-10-82. Melbourne 8-8-56. So the D's have lost 3 in a row. So there's all the off-field conversation, which is obviously particularly juicy and salacious given everything that's taken place. But it feels like there's a fair few problems to ball in their game and the way that they're actually playing on field, completely separate to whatever's happening off the park.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the challenge for Simon Goodwin and his coaching staff. And you know, sometimes a bye does come at a good time. So they might be cutting the whatever little getaway they had short by a day or so. They might be spending a little bit more time poring over the vision, or perhaps they go the other way. And like we spoke about, it's been a long campaign when you go back to sort of the midpoint last year, and they go all the way. And it is tough when you're the benchmark and everyone's got you in the gun and trying to pick you apart and work out how to beat you. That does present its own challenges. So they need to find a way to rejuvenate. Just even towards the end there, it did look like Collingwood ran over the top of them, Boomer, and there were a lot of hands on knees and hands on hips, and sometimes that can happen when you're losing. But I think perhaps it has come at a good time. But they'll need to snap out of it pretty quick because that's the other thing that happens when you're the best team from the year before. They make the fixture pretty difficult for you as well.
Yep,
and we know that they've got a tough run coming up.
Absolutely. They've actually played some decent football. I'm just having a look at this. They led Fremantle by 30 points during the second quarter and lost. They led Sydney by 26 points in the second quarter and lost. And they led the Pies by 22 points in the second quarter today and lost as well. So people are going to start dissecting everything. They're going to say they're not fit enough. I'm not too sure about that.
I think it's fixable, if you want to call it that. And I agree. And I think you heard Alex, who's a really clever guy, obviously, and I think he alluded to it then. Their ability to be able to stop teams having a run on is what's missing at the moment. And the best way to do that is by getting the ball forward and scoring and finding a way to score. And that's where they're really struggling at the moment.
The opposition kicked 9 out of the last 10 goals on them today.
But they had the same amount of inside 50. So they were winning the ball at the stoppage. Their mids are in good form.
Yep.
They're just not finding easy ways to score. So that's fixable.
I think the link to the fitness will be the interesting, with Darren Burgess having left Melbourne, one of the best sort of high-performance managers now joining the Crows. So with the shorter pre-season, what impact did that have? And all of a sudden, the AFL might be rubbing their hands together a fortnight's time. The Thursday night turnstiles might move a bit more freely, Melbourne and the Brisbane Lions. So there's no layout for Melbourne to get back to their best.
Where's that at, the Gabba?
That's at the G.
At the
here
G,
on a Thursday night. So 1 versus 2. And Melbourne now are the 2.
Well, it's a great test for the Lions to come here, isn't it? They don't play a lot of footy at the G. In fact, they bemoan it at times. So here's your opportunity, guys. Come and have a finals-like type game under lights. Everyone watching at the G in round 14.
First time since round 3 that a team other than Melbourne will end the round on top of the table. So Brisbane with the slight superior percentage. Now, if the SMS 0437 774 774, Sam De Koning, give Dacos a shake, lad. So he's
no doubt
for Sam. That's from Craig in the Bush. From Tony in Baldwin North. Great call of the match. Enjoying the analysis by Luke and Boomer, as it provides good insight into the team strategies and the flow of the game. It's a nice compliment. David Jackson says, more Boomer doing the football, please.
Oh,
See, we're always happy to have you, Boomer. But,
Come on, Boomer. Get off some of those North Melbourne games.
You have all these other commitments around the place, trying to help the North Melbourne Footy Club and everything else. Liz in Ballarat, loved your call, guys. One of the best ever. Gee, that's high praise. Who'd watch a match on TV when we have such vivid picture painted audibly? Hi, great call. Loving, feeling the heat. Love seeing the Pies working hard, being a competitive side again. Would love to know Luke's opinion of how the Pies are going now with a new coach compared to what they had previously. That's from Am in Melbourne.
Well, I think the results are there to see. I think there's been clear shifts in the way that they're playing, no doubt, especially offensively. And, you know, I think they're building a brand, as I said, around their pressure and attack on the footy. I think they're top 2 or 3 in the competition for pressure acts. So that's a good place to start, Boomer, when you're trying to sort of rebuild or, you know, refresh the list and get back up the ladder. But one thing that is stood out today is the way that they move the ball at times. They're really exciting to watch. Yep. They were bold. We heard Nick Dacos talk about the coach encouraged it. If you're going to beat this team, this defensive unit, you've got to take some risks, and they were good enough to execute that today.
I agree totally. That 90% of the crowd who come to watch football, they'll talk about the ball movement.
Yeah.
It's the 10% that understand the game a little bit better, that see the pressure factor, to see the chases when nothing happens. You chase 15 metres and you get a metre off, but that perceived pressure, that's the little thing. That's not the sexy stuff, but that's the stuff that wins games.
Yeah, and I think what a changing coach and coaching staff can do is, you know, rejuvenate the older players a bit. I think we're seeing that with some of their older players. I mean, for starters, it's great to get Moore and Howe back. They didn't play a lot of footy last year, so that clearly makes a big difference. But when you get a rejuvenated list of older players, excited to lead and teach, you know, a hungry group of young players, and we know that there's a bit of a gap on their list through the middle there, but that's how they bridge that gap quicker.
Yep.
So I think that's what we're seeing. You know,
they've got a great mix, haven't they? Got those older guys are still there doing the job.
Play good